Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
The dawn of a new year for the Precision Racing League, and this week it's the dawn of a new season for the Multiclass Prototype Series. Champions like Pat Pelshaw have returned to defend their titles. Champions like Justin Ream have left power vacuums for others to fill. Race winners like Dayton Lowe have switched classes, and some PRL greats like Sean Campbell return. All of those names add up to potentially the most competitive season of Monday nights ever here in the PRL. But as I hype that up, welcome to round one of 2024 Season 1, the season openers for LMP3-GT4 and the GTP-LMP2 series. My name is Joey Tevin. Alongside me in the booth this season is Derek Watson, and behind the scenes, as always, is our producer Dustin Allis. But Derek, it is a very exciting start to the season. Don't let the spider on the screen scare you. Make sure you let the drivers in the field scare you. The skill level has stepped up a notch, and I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah, if arachnophobia is your thing, you're not thrilled right now, but we are thrilled to be back here for season one, or certainly week one of the season. That's what I meant to say here for the PRL in this season, and excited to be here at Barber Motorsports Park, possibly the second most famous racetrack in all of Alabama.
I wonder what could come first. I'll ask my buddy Ricky or my buddy Bobby. I don't know which one I'll ask. But it is a very exciting season in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge coming up here. No rain eligible in this series. I'll end your hopes there, but in the GTP-LMP2 series coming up a little bit later, potential for rain all season long. But in the dry, in this series, we kick it off at Barber. We continue our tight and twisty tour at Zandvoort next week, and then some of the old classics. Road Atlanta, Imola, Aragon, which has become a new classic of sorts. The Nürburgring Combined, which was a very interesting race in the higher level prototypes in GTP and LMP2 last season. Then the new track at Algarve, Portimao. We'll actually be going there in GTP and LMP2 coming up tonight. And then Laguna Seca and Spa, a pair of old classics to finish things off. You'll notice about those tracks, Derek, far more suitable for multi-class racing. In the past seasons of this series, we've had some sort of goofy tracks. We've had multi-class racing at Willow Springs and Rudskogen. These are all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, these are big tracks, in other words, tracks that offer passing and multiple cars. It's scary to get all those cars in a small track like Mid-Ohio or somewhere where they're all kind of packed together, but a fun schedule to look forward to here. Lots of things to look forward to. I'm excited for it, and excited to get this tonight rolling.
I will miss the chaos of having multi-class racing at Sandown, but maybe we'll wait until next season for that to happen. We have no championship standings for you, as it is the first round of the season and the first round of a new year, but just know that LMP3 champion Jason Drescher is back to defend his title. GT4 champion Justin Ream taking the season off. He's focusing on some Porsche Canada competition. We might see him back in the PRL next season. But before we can take you into qualifying here and talk you through all the old and new names, we've got our old names of our own that make all this possible here in the PRL, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. From the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Not much of that going to be required by these fields tonight. You look down the timing sheets, even just in this LMP3 GT4 challenge to start things off, there are some big names returning from last season and some big names moving across the series. You've got GT3 champion Michael Terrafino joining GT4 for the first time. You've got Christian Garaton Eisler, as many have known him in the past from the PRL, returning in the LMP3 class. And on track right now, you've got one of your returning drivers, Jean-Sebastien Bédard, representing Advanced Motorsports once more, taking on Barber for the opening laps qualifying.
Doing a great job here so far. We're going to make this right-hand corner here. It seems to be setting a decent lap here around this beautiful track. One of our newer tracks, by the way, all across all of iRacing. As far as when it opened, this track opened in 2003. So really only about 19 years of history at this racetrack, but it's made a beautiful name for itself across IndyCar and other series. Here now to a left-hand corner. And he is really doing a pretty good job here. Manages to stay on track here in what appears to be a hot lap.
I talked about drivers switching classes. Adam Brockway, you've been used to seeing him in the top class in LMP3. Shouldn't say the top class, I should just say the prototype class, but that's where he's been the past couple of seasons. But now he is down in the GT4 class, back where he raced many seasons ago in the PRL and had some success. He's taken on GT4, representing Moradness in their slightly less purple new livery, but he'll be looking for success all the same. You've also got Aiden Young in second, the fiercely forward driver. He was in GTP last season. He has moved down to GT4 as well. Those colors haven't changed, though. You've still got that bright, fiercely forward yellow, the black lion or tiger or something is it on the side, and Aiden Young looking to be just as fast as he was in a GTP, in a GT4 car, and returning to GT4, just putting himself up to third. You're going to see a very purple car here in a couple of moments, Derek. Ted Lowendick is back in GT4 as well, and it's not purple, it's blue. He lied. There is a banana on it, though.
Very blue. I've heard of this guy before.
There is a little bit of purple, though. It's on the wheels this time.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you're right. It's noticed the wheel well as well. Ted, of course, races multiple series across PRL. You can also see him on Wednesday nights in the Grand Nationals from time to time. So, yeah, it's always cool to see Ted with the banana stuff on the cars.
Nicholas Karangis looks exactly the same. The Throttle Thursday livery hasn't changed. It's still that dazzle camo with the bright magenta and bright cyan. Not the best lap in the world for Nicholas. He's going to be looking to improve on that, but I don't know if he's going to have time to do so. With only a minute 50 left in the clock, and this is closed qualifying, so you don't get any time after that clock hits zero. In multi-class racing, you can't have everybody out in the same track, so they close the qualifying, and Nicholas Karanja is going to be starting from deep in the field. Unfortunate for a driver who actually won his first race last season at Sandown. Jordan Branch, though, out on track right now in the 007. He'll be stuck down in 22nd as well, looking to move his way forward in that BMW.
You see on the screen there, not too far off, by the way, just Not less than a tenth of a second of a plus there, so we'll see how he fares here. 129.979 is what he turned. So actually, he's a couple seconds off there. Sorry, the graphic caught me off guard there, Joey. He's 127.344 is pole for the GT4s.
A little bit of work for that BMW, known for being a little bit heavy, a little bit pogo-y at the back at times, and maybe not the most popular car in the GT4 field, but Jordan going with what he's comfortable with, taking this BMW around, and we'll see how it goes for him. You can change car, I believe, after the opening round. I believe that's the last time you can do it. If you do it after that, you incur a 20-point penalty for a car change, which, if you are fighting, a little bit deeper in the order, you might not care about 20 points, but if you're fighting for a championship, 20 points could make or break the championship season. Travis Pruitt on screen right now in some familiar colors, blue and orange, a little bit shiny on that Mercedes. He's going to bring it around the final corner, very, very deep, scraping those tires, and he might be one of the last drivers to actually get a lap finished here.
Yeah, he might be. Let's see if we can get around here, or see if we can get to the line and get one more lap in, 10 seconds to go here. He did get it, so he could do one more lap per the open qualifying rules if he wants to.
If it was open qualifying, he would get to finish that. Ted Lowendick does his best Max Chilton impression and throws it into the wall on pit entry, but luckily for him, the clock does tick to 0. Qualifying comes to an end, and we have our first pole sitters of the LMP3 GT4 season. It shouldn't really be a surprise to tell you who the pole sitter is in LMP3 because he's your defending champion. Jason Drescher returns. Jason Drescher puts it on pole, and he'll look to defend his championship title. He's got a returning driver with a slightly different name. You may have seen him as Christian Eisler in the past, Christian Garreton this season, and then a veteran of the PRL, a race winner, and a veteran of Ivra for that matter. He was racing in the 700 kilometers of Interlagos over the weekend. David Duino is here, starting alongside Daniel Cranifus, who returns from last season. Eric Leroy representing the Moradness M squad in P5 alongside Vincent Leroux, very strong debutant from last season. Ian Starker, P7, starts alongside Sean Romig, who with turn 1 and done has moved up from GT4 to LMP3. Greg Doucette and Throttle Thursday, P9, alongside Mikey Smith, a new driver to the PRL, in P10. Chase Wilson just outside of the top 10, and Corey Precker, you'll be seeing his face all season long. He starts on the last spot in the top dozen. Unlucky 13th went to Calvin Myant, and as he steps down from GTP, he starts alongside Doug Sorrentino, who steps down from LMP2. David Stevenson starts alongside Nicholas Carangis, the other Nicholas Talaputis directly behind him, and Josh Kimball brings us down to 18th in LMP3. But the hits keep on coming. It's a big field here. Gary Gainesville has also moved up from GT4 to LMP3, and Sean Mulholland will be on admin duty today. You will not see him in the race. You'll see him on pit lane and potentially after the race if you get yourself a penalty. 2 returning names in the PRL, but new names to the GT4 class as opposed to last season. Adam Brockway returns to GT4 and puts it on pole. He starts alongside Aiden Young, who steps down from GTP. Ted Lowendick switches from a Mercedes to a McLaren, looking for his first win in the GT4 car as he starts alongside lead driver Steward in the hockey referee colors, Arnaud Genet. Michael Terrafino brings back Team Beef. He starts P5 alongside Cade Smith. He's looking for his first win in a GT4 car. Dan Willis is the Moradness M squad driver in P7, starting alongside the winner of the preseason non-championship race, Floyd Kerr. His teammate Turner Schroll starts behind him and alongside Jean-Sebastien Bédard. The Ostrich, Adam Ostrich, won his first race last season. He starts 11th alongside Nathan Jennings. The first of the Jennings, indeed, will a little bit further back. Dean Kerr, 13th, alongside former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan. Then Roy Brown of Team Beef returns to the PRL in 15th, alongside Travis Pruitt. Nathan Deering completes the Hyperion contingent as he starts alongside Michael Doyle with the Birds, or whatever that is, returning to the livery. Jordan Branch, the lone BMW, starts alongside iRacing veteran and beta tester Tim McLeish. Barry Sessom starts alongside the second Jennings, Will Jennings, and Doug Evans is the first Evans of the night. You'll see his son Jeff in the GTPs coming up a little bit later. Robert McGee in the only orange Porsche in the field. It's unfortunately no Graham Wildman this season. He's focusing on ovals. Last 2 drivers in GT4, James O'Brien and Samuel Ma. We've seen both of them in open wheel competition and NASCAR competition in James O'Brien's case, but they're both going to take on GT4 for the first time this season. That is a lot of drivers, Derek. That is a lot of cars, 46 to be precise. And now we send them all around a track that was built for motorcycles. What could go wrong? Or what could go right, I should ask.
Yeah, maybe both is the right answer. Sort of, you talked about the parts of the schedules here being bigger tracks like Spa or Nürburgring, but first, we're going to get through this track. Not a very big track, Joey, about 2.3 miles or a little over 3 kilometers, depending upon your preference here. So lots of corners, lots of fun racing to be had here. And I'm excited to see how the first couple of laps go and everyone can get this worked out and keep their cars pointed in the correct direction.
And it's the dawn of a new season, Derek. As I've mentioned all broadcast long so far, we've got new drivers, we've got old drivers, we've got old drivers that are new in a way after returning after a couple of seasons. I feel like this is some of the most questions we've had before a race start. There's always jitters in the opening round of the season, but how are the drivers feeling right now as there's so many unknowns to kick off 2024?
Yeah, a lot of unknowns. Of course, some of them did that preseason race last week, so they'll feel good about that. But you're right. It's like that old wedding thing. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Well, we're about to see all 4 of those things come together all at once here.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. But Jason Drescher was in a purple and white car last season. He's now actually added something blue to that car. We'll see if that's the color of a champion. Coming through the final 2 corners, your defending LMP3 champion Jason Drescher will lead the field to green for the first time in 2024. And remember, GT4 takes the green flag simultaneously. The green flag flies for the first time in 2024 Season 1, and they've already stratified out 1, 2, 3 into Turn 1. Christian Garreton falls to P3 as David Duino pounces into Turn 1. They take the green flag in GT4 on the right side of your screen as well. Pole sitter Adam Brockway gets off to a strong start. Look at Aiden Young in tow, Ted Lowendick in the McLaren in 3rd, fending off an attack from 4th place into Turn 1. Looks like everybody's got away cleanly so far. I don't see any smoke, I don't see any damage, but now into the hairpin for the first time in LMP3. There's the first bounce, and there's the first trouble.
Lots of trouble there in that corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars at least involved there, Joey. So lots of calamity to begin the season, and really, with only a 9-week season, you can't afford any kind of mistake, even in week 1.
Looks like all of them get away. Nobody's stuck. Everybody got pointed straight, but unfortunately the bad luck kid, Corey Precker, involved again. Calvin Mayant, Vincent LaRue from a 6th place starting spot involved as well. The comeback drives have begun already for many of those drivers. In GT4, far cleaner. It's a single file train almost all the way to the back of the field. Looks a little bit like a pace lap as there's a spin in the middle of the field. One of the Hyperion drivers takes a slide coming down the hill. Floyd Kerr flashes the lights after getting it pointed straight. Tempers are flaring already, Derek.
Yeah, there's the angry headlights. You saw him coming through the corners. You can see from a distance. So that's his way of showing he's not happy about something that's already happened on the racetrack.
But just like that, lap 1 already in the books. They fly by here at Barber, and the battle for the podium is on as Daniel Kranifus tries to set up a move on Christian Garreton. Does not succeed in doing so. Actually almost throws it off the road in the exit of Turn 2. You see a cloud of smoke, and you see the 3 in front of him driving off into the distance. You mostly see Jason Drescher driving off into the distance after a clean start, after stratifying the field 1, 2, 3 into Turn 1. He's been able to run away. Michael Doyle's in trouble on the exit of the final corner, though.
Yeah, let's turn around here fairly safely. I started to say you got the car a little bit of hang time there, but overall that car looks okay compared to what it could look like.
Jordan Branch and Tim McLeish going at it. BMW versus McLaren. McLeish on the inside, though, is going to win out on that battle. And look at one of the more Adness drivers coming up to try and get by Jordan Branch as well. The inside coming up the hill becomes the outside into Turn 5, though. And Barry Sessoms, the driver of the 505, slots back in line and is forced to wait another moment. 1 spot back behind him, though. James O'Brien in the Porsche didn't actually get a lap in qualifying. He's on a drive forward as he gets by Robert McGeehan.
James out here, as you said, trying out GT4 as a well-known member of the PRL Cup Series here on Sunday nights on Race Spot. But once it's right out, there's another car spun around. It's sitting on the outside. Hold the brakes, and he will, and he'll sit there, wait for the opening, Joey.
It has not been a good day to be named Kerr coming through that chicane. Floyd got turned around on the exit of turn number 7 on lap 1. Dean Kerr ends up off the road at the same time. Doug Sorrentino around at turn number 2, or technically turn number 3 at the apex there. These are all single car incidents we're seeing, Derek. Lots of drivers just getting those race 1 jitters out of the way. And Doug Sorrentino now trying to hold off one of the Throttle Thursday drivers going around the outside, trying to get back in the rhythm.
Yeah, you know, interestingly, this track has been out in iRacing for a while, Joey, but I feel like it's a track that's not used all that commonly. So when you take this many drivers to a track that we don't use that commonly, you'll find some people aren't as familiar with the braking points. They're not as familiar with, you know, all the lines, and those kind of things can happen. But here, look at this cool 2 teammates right here backed up, and we get another car up on the kitty litter.
Yeah, Nicholas Salaputis going off in that turn 7 chicane. He was going on the attack on Doug Sorrentino just a couple of moments ago, and that has come very quickly undone. Speaking of Doug Sorrentino, though, he's going full aggression, trying to get by, I believe that's Vincent LaRue directly ahead of him. Those high-speed chicanes at turn 9, turn 10, turn 11, and turn 12, they're not optimal overtaking spots, Derek, but when you're in these frenetic periods of the race, when you're in the early stages trying to make up spots, you can see dives come from anywhere.
Yeah, they can come from anywhere. You feel like almost at the optimal spot to pass is where you feel like you can do it. But on this track, turns 5 and 6, I believe, are probably the most optimal spots. Oh, a little grass cutting there. Of course, over there, known as Charlotte's Web, in turns 5 and 6 showing for the statues.
We'll get you some replays the lap 1 when we can. There was a lot of action. We got to spool up the old replay machine, break out the film. Here's the start of it. This is the calamity coming into the hairpin on lap 1. Very, very late in the brace was Nicholas Salaputis coming in like a wrecking ball there. And a separate incident on the exit of the hairpin as well. Means about 5 cars involved fall to the back of the field, and there may just be another incident here coming into turn 7. They were single file entering. Somehow they've single filed out, and literally the battle for last, Derek. We've got so much action.
Sometimes those are the best battles when everyone's kind of frustrated and wants to get somewhere. They'll do it. You know, something about this track that amazes me, Joey, is look how many drivers in both classes are just abusing the curb here. Look how much those cars move around when they do it. That's not advised, in my opinion, to be doing that.
Yeah, that was Vincent LaRue absolutely clocking that concrete curb coming down the hill. 3 wide into the penultimate corner in Barber. How often do you see that? You don't see it for much longer because that never works out. Calvin Mayant ends up winning out in that battle. He's going to live to fight another day, and he's going to look forward. Speaking of looking forward, Sean Romig's path forward looks much clearer because suddenly he doesn't have a front bumper on that car. He's getting a lot of fresh air on the front of that car, but I imagine that's not necessarily how they designed it over at Ligier.
No, that's like we added a 3rd class to the race right there with that
LMP4
missing. Yeah, of course.
The old LMP4 class of Sean Romig. You got dive from Josh Kimball to the inside of Corey Precker. You've got Vincent LaRue on the scene as well. I said, Derek, this is literally the battle for last. They've got 1 driver behind him, but every single one of these drivers is on a drive forward. They're all on a comeback of some way. Corey Precker especially was last on lap 1. The aggression kicking off up there. The aggression kicking off up front now, though, Derek, because this is a multi-class series, and what does that mean? It means lots and lots of traffic, and your race leader, Jason Drescher, deals with Robert McGeehan for the first time and loses about a second, leaving himself vulnerable to David Duino, but there's still a whole field of GT4 cars coming up.
And this first pass-through is always the most nervous for the leaders because this is when the GT4s are racing the hardest. Maybe they're not focusing on what's behind them. And it gets harder, I think, to pass these guys the first time than any subsequent time. Look at the onboard here for Kranefuss. Now he's going to try to make the pass to the left here. Slow braking corner.
Now orderly. You've got the Moradness Mercedes on the outside. You've got Tim McLeish and his McLaren on the outside. And now suddenly it becomes very, very disorderly as Kranefuss is going to try and get to the inside of Branch. He succeeds into turn 7. Still 1 more car, though. The number 420 of Jennings checks up Christian Garatone, and Kranefuss gets into the back of him ever so slightly.
Yeah, we don't want any bump draft in these cars, guys. That's more of a NASCAR thing, but they did it. Let's take a look at this next replay here, Joey, and see what's going to happen here. Oh, my goodness.
Trouble for Greg Doucette coming up the hill. That was to the inside of Robert McGeehan in the orange Porsche, and hopping that curb in turn 4. You don't want to do that. That's what Joseph Newgarden did at IndyCar a couple of years ago. Spun himself out in front of the field, and it ended very, very badly for him. Speaking of ending badly, Jean-Sebastien Bédard, such a strong qualifying. He's going to be crying right now as once again the curbs come afoul. This time it through turn 10, and he goes spinning around in front of traffic.
Ooh, that could have been horrible with the way he started spinning that car around. Thought for sure it was just going to pull back out in front of traffic, but he didn't. Now back live look here at the multi-class racing. And they're going to come back down here into turn number 1 again.
A little bit of smoke through turns 2 and 3. You could probably imagine that came from about the 17 cars that are ahead of this pack, but this is a battle of differing experience. Nicholas Karangis has been with us in LMP3 for a very long time, and Chase Wilson trying to hold him off. This may be the culprit behind that smoke, Derek. Nathan Deering gets the littlest bit clipped by race leader Jason Drescher and goes around in turn 1.
Yeah, he got clipped by the Multiclass Racing, and wow, I'm surprised that caused that, or at least it caused that for the GT4. Typically in those kind of incidents, Joey, you would think that LMP3 would be more susceptible to the damage, but not that time. Look at him, 3 wide with the Multiclass Racing. This is not in the manual.
Oh, Karangis does send it 3 wide on Jordan Branch and Travis Pruitt. I have no idea how he got away with that through turns 9 and 10, but his teammate is going to try and do the same thing as Greg Doucette looks 3 wide coming down the hill, slams on the brakes to not absolutely pummel Travis Pruitt. It's got to be eternally frustrating coming through there. It's even more frustrating flailing around trying to recover. Doucette does eventually get around Travis Pruitt, and now he looks forward at 1 more Mercedes before he gets to breathe that little bit clearer. Into turn 1, though, race leader Jason Drescher, I think, has finally cleared the last bit of traffic as Corey Precker has found himself in the pit lane wall entry. How the heck did he get out there?
I don't know how he got out there, but he was certainly parked there when we got the cameras over to find him. And I said, Corey just somehow finds all the bad luck sometimes. Let's watch it here. Gets to the outside of the corner. And,
dear.
He had a multi-class car slow up in front of him, and he just sort of had to make a decision.
That was one of the Moradness Mercedes, and yeah, that was absolutely bizarre. I don't know if he was trying to pit or if Precker was trying to pit or what went on there, but you can imagine if we could see Corey's face in VR right now, he'd probably be shaking his head because nothing has gone right for him in this race so far. The driver who has gone quite right so far today is David Steveson, one of those new drivers of the PRL. It's always good to see new names signing up and doing their best. He's up multiple spots from where he started, and he might just be 1 more up as he peeks to the inside of Mikey Smith.
Wow, it was almost a lot down had that pass gone wrong there. I thought for sure he was going to stick it in there, but yeah, you're right. Always great to see new names in PRL. It's always great to see new competition and new, people involved. And there's another pass there. Great job here. And man, this is my first time on Monday nights with you, Joey, and there is not a dull moment to be found here.
No, I hope you took all your breaths before this broadcast started, because you're not getting one for the next hour and a half or so.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Glad there's no heart problems or anything. Oh, hold on.
Ian Starker around in turn 3, and he's going to be waiting for a while as there's a lot of traffic coming around. It's almost the whole field. Ian says, I'm going to try and back it up. I'm going to try and do a J-turn to eventually get things going here, and I think he's finally found a quiet part. It's not so quiet anymore. Here comes 3 wide, 4 wide almost, as Starker's trying to recover.
Man, that was tight. He had a lot of time there, and just really, I thought he could have moved a little sooner, but man, I mean, there's still 3 wide.
They're still 3 wide. They're still making contact. It's absolute craziness in the middle of the field. And once again, I don't say this to insult the drivers. I say that this is the battle for last place in LMP3. This is how hard fought every single position is fought in this series. And here's how Ian Starker ended up in that position. Just that little clip of the grass in the middle of turns 2 and 3, Derek. You and I both know, experience of this track, it's so frustrating when you get that little bit too wide out there. You clip that grass, and you know it's over. There's nothing you can do.
Well, and the problem is, as a driver, you think to yourself, I've done that before. Like, you don't realize how far you got in the grass. I've run that line. I've done that before. I've hit that before. And you're trying to justify in your head why the car shouldn't have spun. I've done that a million times. We've all said it as drivers.
Will Jennings leading a little bit of a train. He's got Barry Sessoms, one of the new Moradness drivers behind him. Branch, McLeish, O'Brien, and Pruitt. You've got bad luck, you've got good luck, and you've just got drivers who are around for the ride here. It's a good exit out of the final corner for Sessoms, but this is a track where, despite what we've seen so far, Derek, it is a little bit tough to pass. There's not a bunch of heavy braking zones. There is the one at the hairpin, but other than that, passes are somewhat hard to find, and when you're in a train like this, it's very difficult to move your way forward. We actually did see the other Jennings, though. Nathan Jennings has peeled down pit lane. I think he's the first driver to legitimately pit on strategy. He's trying to do something different and maybe get out of some of these trains.
Yeah, sometimes that's the most important part of pitting, besides taking the gas you need, is it allows you to get out of a log jam, out of a gaggle of cars. and get yourself into some open air. Look at this beautiful race here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars. Saw that car pull in line there and just kind of get in the space they could get in. But you're right, not too many passing spots here. As you said, the hairpin. For me, it's Charlotte's Web. It's turns 5 and 6. It's really your only prime passing points. Other than that, you're just sort of hoping someone makes a mistake and you can capitalize on it.
That was a good move into turn 5 from James O'Brien, getting by Tim McLeish. Back up in LMP3, though. Those are those frustrating moves, Derek, when your competitors clear the traffic and you're forced to just back off, wait behind, and eventually Calvin Mayan gets around Arnaud Genet, but he's lost critical seconds there to that battle for 10th. I do just want to put a spotlight on that Arnaud Genet livery, though. Him and his and some of his fellow race stewards said, we want a livery that shows off the fact that we're race stewards. And of course, Arnaud, as a French Canadian, he lives and breathes hockey. That was probably his first words. So we've got the hockey referee chic for Arnaud Genet.
That's a nice livery right there. It's very obvious and very simple. As a broadcaster, we can pick it out pretty easily. So always nice to see that hockey referee style livery there being run by Arnaud. See a couple of GT4s coming up over the crest here. Now down into a left-hander. And everyone's pretty much single file. Little bits of racing side by side. But I think here right around the 15-minute mark, Joey, it started to calm down just a little bit.
And to finish off that Arnaud Genet point, by the way, he's racing for a team entitled Beware Stewards Driving, and in that he will have one teammate in a guy you may know named Jerome Berthiaume, the head honcho of the PRL. Unfortunately, Jerome not racing with us tonight, but hopefully we'll see Jerome over the course of the season and see if he can have some good luck here in GT4. This train continues, though. Barry Sessoms is getting very, very used to the rear end of Will Jennings' Mercedes. You have to imagine he's going to start getting frustrated at that, though, and as we approach the halfway point in this race, we do finally have to start thinking about strategy. We can't think about chaos on track all the time. You do have to think about pit lane eventually, as Corey Precker is right there on it.
Now, what you can think about strategy, Joey, with that 5 or 6 car train is if you're willing to sit in that train and be patient, you could save a little bit of fuel, and what that will do for you is put you on pit road a little bit shorter than your competitors when that time does come. So you could possibly pull the overcut or undercuts depending upon when you pit here. But here's Cranefuss and Garreton. This is for 3rd and 4th up in the LMP3 class, and they're both really doing pretty well. Look at those times there on the sectors. You see Cranefuss in 2 of the 3 sectors is gaining on him a decent rate.
Christian, very, very strong driver in a prototype in the past. I believe he did have a couple of seasons, but Cranefuss trying to make it work the long way around in turn 5. That is exceptionally difficult to do. Unfortunately, the laws of physics say that Cranefuss can't make that work the long way around, and he's going to slot back in line, but that was the first real bite. That was Cranefuss showing that he wants to get back on the podium like he did so many times this season. And Eisler may have tons of experience in the PRL. He may have been an organizer for GT3 in the past and continuing to help out the series today. But Cranefuss is really trying to show that even though he may only be in his 2nd or 3rd season of PRL competition, he's ready to push and he's ready to take this on. He looks to the outside into turn 11. Gets the door shut, though. He's going to have to wait a little while longer.
I was really hold on.
As David Duino goes around after contact with Will Jennings, suddenly it's not a battle for 3rd, it's a battle for 2nd as the first traffic interaction ends badly for some of our leaders. Cranefuss does get around the outside of Christian Garreton a little bit further forward, as I think Christian was coming down pit lane, and if I'm not mistaken, Derek, I saw a GT4 car broadside across the track coming into the final corner.
There's one right there, but I don't think this is the one you're referring to, but there's a different. This is going to be Barry Sessoms here. But there was a lot of calamity all of a sudden at once. What was a group of cars became almost like a parking lot or a very slow-moving chicane right there as Cranefuss and others were coming through. So here is that change now. Now a battle here.
David Steveson going at it with Chase Wilson. Chase trying to make it work the long way around. He's going to slot back in line for the moment. Duino, though, takes advantage of that loss he already took, and he says, you know what? I'm going to minimize my losses. I've already lost about 5 seconds getting turned around in this lap. I'm going to bring it down pit lane, and I'm going to try something off on strategy as Wilson dives it to the inside of Steveson into turn 5 and takes P6 for the number 6.
Yeah, nice job there. Get that passing, cut it deep into the corner. You saw a little bit of smoke in the tires, but all is good. And now has that spot there, now up through the S's, if you will. There's snaky corners, as I used to call them as a kid, and get them on through here.
I would like to give a shout out to Graham Wildman, who isn't racing with us in GT4 this season, despite his winning pedigree of a couple seasons ago. He is in the chat, though, with his group. David Duino, though, very long stop for him, Derek. He was trying to minimize his losses coming down here after that spin, and unfortunately, it looks like he's come afoul of pit lane rules, and he's been sitting there for north of 60 seconds, I think, and I assume serving a penalty for either an unsafe entry or speeding.
Yeah, I'd say or speeding was what came to mind first for me, but either could be true, and we'll wait and see if we can find out at post-race what that was all about. Now we got a small line of LMP3s here. And, you know, I was thinking, Joey, you know, with how much this track twists and turns, the unfortunate, in my mind, the unfortunate seating of the LMP3 must prove more difficult on a track like this that's constantly turning both ways. It's got to be hard to get a good angle on your view here.
Here's what happened to Duino. This was his unsafe entry, and it was the Max Chilton maneuver, outbraking himself into the wall on pit entry, and that proved to be an unsafe pit entry for David Duino. He's still on pit lane. I don't think it's just the penalty. I think he's getting damage repaired as well with that hard hit, and that is such a shame for a driver who is so exciting to see back. The Hydra Race geodesic driver who's so strong in an LMP3 car. He's just had no luck over the past couple of days. Ended up in a crash in the Ivra Club Sports Series in Interlagos, and unfortunately his day is going to end earlier than he would like in LMP3. Ted Lowendick, though, Derek, we mentioned him in qualifying, doing a solid job in P4. He was on the podium in the practice race, but right now he's actually at risk of being taken down by the cow, Michael Terrafino.
Yeah, that cow paint scheme reminds me of the old Gateway boxes from the 2000s, but it's a great scheme nonetheless for Terrafino here. You see in the 2 of the 3 sectors has barely outpaced Lowendick by about 1/10 of a second here. So you see that battle is on. Man, look at Ted get up in the air. Did a wheelie there.
He did. It was a double wheel. It was almost like cow tipping there. But one of the bonuses of Monday nights, as Michael Terrafino does slot back in line, and as we have a moment here, we do have the opportunity to talk to Ted Lowendick live and whilst he's driving. We don't have his camera, but we may have his voice. Let's see if we can dial up Ted for the first time today. Ted, can you hear us?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Are you having a cow right now?
Yeah.
Is Michael Terrafino trying to move you out of the way?
I think he about hit me on his pit entry there.
Well,
Michael, those jokes are utterly awful. Can I tell you that?
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Derek. So what's the strategy here, Derek? You're coming out of line, or not Derek, Ted is who I'm talking to. Coming out of line, going slightly off strategy to everybody else. What's the move for Terrafino? What's the move for you?
I don't know. Arnaud just got in a little bit of a kerfuffle up there. So there's your word of the day. I'm hoping to save enough fuel to go an extra lap. If not, I've been saving a little bit. Maybe jump Arnaud in the pits, maybe not. We'll see how it goes.
So how chaotic has this been so far? You had one season of this series in your books last season. It seems like it's living up to expectations again so far.
This track in these 2 car classes is really it's kind of sketchy in places.
Is the banana power? Are you feeling the banana power though?
I'm not feeling the banana power today. For some reason, it just doesn't seem like I've got the pace the leaders have.
But you've got Doug with the banana now. You've got the ostrich with the banana now as well. Isn't that? Are you feeling the camaraderie?
I am. Did you happen to notice that Adam has an ostrich on his car?
Does he? We didn't actually. We haven't seen him yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Well, you should
and
go
also,
take a look.
How scary is it having the hockey referee in front of you?
Well, he doesn't look like a referee to me for some reason. I'm seeing his Canadian Porsche Cup Series list. Oh, this guy's trying to. I don't know where he's going.
Neither do I.
Oh, now he's gonna wait. Okay.
Yeah, he's patient. He's waiting. But GT4 class leaders are in. Adam Brock is in. Nathan Young is in, and Ted, for just a brief moment, tell your family to take a screenshot. You're the leader in GT4.
I don't know if my dad knows how to do that.
Well, I'll make him look up a tutorial. Ted, I'll let you get back to driving. I assume you'll be in pit lane this next time around, and we'll see you later.
Yes, I should be.
Theodore Lowendick, live and in beautiful color. And by the way, Mr. Lowendick, who I believe his name is also Theodore. I don't know. Are you on a Mac or a PC? We can do some tech support live if you need it.
Yeah, we could. Use a snipping tool, use a print screen command. You can use all kinds of ways to get a screenshot. So yeah, you can contact Joey privately on Twitter and walk you right through it.
I probably won't check Twitter, just for the record, Mr. Lowendick, but if you message Nick McLaughlin on this fancy new app called Discord, I think he'll be very happy to get that message. But anyway, back to racing action. Mikey Smith and Chase Wilson, these guys have been sort of in the action station all race long. Chase Wilson has been up, he's been down. What a way to start in this LMP3 series for Chase. He's been all action all the time.
Yeah, he really has been here with really been all over the back of Mike. He's been chasing him down, if you will, to try to get that 10th spot. You know, as a driver, sometimes, some reason, Joey, if those round numbers like 10 or even I guess 5th, which isn't round, really do matter to you as a driver. Something about that idea of a top 10 means more than finishing P11.
Yeah, and especially in a series like this where there, how many cars took the start in LMP3? I believe 19, I believe. So top 10, basically the half of the field, the top half of the field. Found Cade Smith there in such an awkward corner to deal with lap traffic over at turn 13. We haven't thought about pit strategy in LMP3 yet. We're still thinking about pit strategy in GT4 as Ted Lowendick makes his first and only stop. Floyd Kerr does the same. The blend, though, is going to be close. Ted Lowendick and Arnaud Genet coming into turn 1. Looks like Arnaud is going to take that over. Ted's going to come out directly alongside Chase Wilson, actually, and Michael Terrafino is going to look to pounce behind him.
See, there's that cow car right behind him again. Still trying to run him down as Terrafino, trying to get up to the banana and see if he can make something happen here. About 10 minutes left here, Joey. Things have started to calm down a little bit. Pit strategies in play. Of course, no one will take tires here. There's no advantage to taking tires in this short of a race. But boy, as a driver, you wish you could probably, but just not enough time to make that strategy effective.
You wish you had push to pass around Barber. You wish you had DRS or something, but alas, it's old-fashioned racing here in LMP3 and GT4. Tim McLeish is going to jump James O'Brien. He'll get that spot back as Daniel Cranifus kicks off the pit strategy in LMP3. He's the first of the leaders to actually bring it down, and he might put himself at risk of ending up behind Greg Doucette in traffic. Actually, no. Cranifus, well-calculated, well-watched on the relative. He finds himself a total clean bubble of air, and he can just turn some qualifying laps right now, while Christian Garreton, rather, is probably dealing with a little more traffic.
And I'll tell you, Joey, in a track of 40-plus cars, that right there, that's gold. That open air is gold. You get to run your own line, use your own braking points. You're not worried about passing. You're not worried about being passed. That right there, yeah, that was a great moment for Cranifus. Now going to the inside of that GT4, the Golf livery, if you will.
Side by side again into turn 5. I said Mikey Smith and Chase Wilson can't leave us alone. Well, how about we add Ian Starker into the equation as well, as Smith does get past Starker. Now Wilson looks to get by him as well and not leave separation in this battle. Robert McGeehan might be the pick, though. Smith has to stay on the outside, allowing Starker to take that spot back. Coming down into turn 7, Robert McGeehan right now is Ian Starker's best friend, just by keeping it in his lane, keeping it on the side of the track. That allowed Starker to hold on to that spot.
And the real loser of that ordeal was Chase Wilson, by the way. He got stuck behind that GT4 for a corner or two. And you can see that gap that's left here. And I'm sure Chase is a little frustrated by that moment. By the way, you talked about there being no rain in LMP3s and GT4s, Joey. But look at the clouds. If it was eligible to rain, it looks like it could.
One day, Derek, it'll happen. All season long, though, in the GTP-LMP2 series, it will be possible to rain. Not sure if it's going to happen tonight, but it very well could happen, as there's a little bit of a teammate civil war here. Nicholas Karangis and Greg Doucette have both had their own sets of bad luck so far today, and now they find each other on track yet again. Karangis is going to hang on for the moment. They're just stretching this out as long as humanly possible and trying to put as little fuel as possible into these cars. I have to imagine, though, this will be the final lap they're out on track as race leader Jason Drescher is down pit lane, and Karangis and Doucette likely going to do the same after navigating these last 2 bits of traffic directly ahead.
Yeah, I think a key point you hit on there was all about the pit road strategy, putting just enough gas in to get to the end, making sure you enter correctly, you exit correctly, you minimize time on pit road. You can gain lots of time on track based upon what you do on pit road.
But do we know how you can lose all that time if you have an unsafe pit entry? Yes, we do. It looks like Karangis and Doucette do get it slowed down, though, and they will fall down into their official and legitimate positions. Got to give a shout out to Eric Leroy, by the way. I don't believe we've said his name once so far today. And as the Throttle Thursday drivers bring it into their box, the Moradness driver in the 444 is suddenly up to P4 after we haven't mentioned him once all day. That's fantastic in a series like this.
Sometimes being silent and being subtle is the best way to race, because you can surprise people with where you finish, but also you don't make any enemies in the process. That's what Leroy is doing here in that Moradness car. And now going to take this corner here, big wide corner, and we'll try to secure that spot here as we go about 6 minutes left.
And you promised me, Derek, this season we're not going to get confused between Leroy and LaRue. That's never going to happen, right?
Well, I know Vincent LaRue, so maybe I can't say any better.
We'll try our best.
Probably.
A little bit of trouble for Cade Smith, apparently, was fighting in the top 5 at times today, but coming out of turn 5, coming into turn 6, looks like some technical issues for Mr. Smith, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just sort of pulled it off in the grass and went ahead and towed the car over. So this is Leroy. Well, that was Leroy. I'm going to point out the difference there. My nerves. Oh, man.
Michael Terrafino
get in there.
Is absolutely having a cow right now, still desperate to get by Ted Lowendick. Don't let the low fuel sign distract you. That's not legitimate. That's just a thing that happens in the graphics. But this is a 3-way battle for the podium now in GT4. Things are pretty stratified out front. Adam Brockway has led all day long. We haven't said his name once, and that is a very good thing in this series. Aiden Young about 1.6 seconds behind him. But the battle for the podium, hotly contested now. Genet, Lowendick, and Terrafino, all race winners in the PRL. None of them race winners in a GT4 car, though, as far as I know. I don't even believe Arnaud has won in the GT4 car. So they'll all be looking for that this season. They'll all be looking for a podium, though, for now.
And really the person who's having the hardest time in this grouping right here is Terrafino, because now he's going to worry about the braking points of 2 different cars in front of him. If either of these cars breaking a point he's not expecting, he can end up running them over pretty easily there.
Unfortunately, Derek, I've been wrong for the first time tonight. Arnaud does have 1 win in a GT4 car, so I got to give him that.
Mark it down. Joey Tebben messed up a stat.
There you go. First time this season. But Terrafino looking to the outside, almost using one of their own as a pick. That was Roy Brown and the other Team Beef Mercedes, leaving the door wide open for that battle to continue. Terrafino a little bit too far back to use his favorite overtaking spot in turn 5, though. The LMP3 might open the door as Genet locks it up in the Porsche. Chase Wilson, or actually that's Jason Drescher, race leader, trying to get around Ted Lowendick. Does get around him at an opportune moment, though. Clears Genet before turn 7 as well. That means that they're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way in the GT4 battle. No LMP3s to open up that door just yet. Got to make the move on track.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do it just the way you were taught to do it. You see, I thought we saw Arnaud maybe use the headlights there. Maybe that was just a graphical thing. I don't know.
I think he was letting Robert McGeehan know to get by, because McGeehan is a lap down. Now, if you're a lap down in GT4 to an LMP3 car, you're not necessarily obliged to get out of the way, but if you're a lapped car in GT4 with other GT4s behind you, you do have a slight obligation to get out of the way, and he does finally open the door for Genet, opens the door for Ted Lowendick, and does open the door for Terrafino as well. Genet a little bit frustrated, though. The referee was blowing his whistle right there, and that lost him a bunch of time and brings Ted Lowendick back in the fray with only a few laps to go.
Yeah, if you're going to test a rule, maybe don't test it in front of the admin. Don't test it in front of the steward, who will know what you did. You can't really protest it later if he saw you do it live.
Lap time's just under 1 minute 30. I believe that means 3 laps to go for these drivers. 2 laps to go at the line for GT4. Could be a little bit too stratified for anything to go on here, though. You've got so many more LMP3 cars coming up, though. That traffic is never going to give up. You've got Kranifus in second coming up. You've got Garreton. You've got lapped cars like David Duino, all trying to open the door, though. Kranifus gets by Ted Lowendick before turn 7. He's forced to slot in line, though, behind Genet coming down the hill. That door is going to be waiting and waiting and waiting to be opened. And these are all little things that Ted and Terrafino, for that matter, need to pounce on, opening the door on a GT4 car as Michael Terrafino makes contact with Nicholas Salaputas.
And you see there, he's a GT4 getting around here. He went through around Genet at this point. But all that traffic has really made a gap there between Genet and Lowendick here. So that's good news for Genet, bad news for Lowendick.
You see David Duino in those Hydro Race geodesic colors in the black and gold. Just spare a thought for what might have been if it wasn't for that unsafe pit entry. He was so fast and may have still been in the conversation for the win if things went his way. I have a feeling you'll see him win a race this season, though. Last time he was here with us, a couple of seasons ago, he did win a race at the Nürburgring, I believe, and you'll probably see that happen again for Duino this season. Josh Kimball, though, going for the move on Gary Gainsel. Locks it up a little bit, but makes it happen as Gary Gainsel falls down one more spot, and Kimball looks for potentially one more as he may have a chance to get one more done before the end of the race. Across the line, though, with just a couple of seconds before 1 minute to go, Smith, Wilson, and Doucette, 2 more laps for them, and Greg Doucette's on a recovery drive. He's trying to get by both of these guys.
He is trying to get by both of these guys, and that very bright car sort of reminds me of the Olympus Esports liveries we'll see sometimes on RaceSpot in IVRA and other races. Just the way it looks, I don't know if it makes you think of that, but that's all I could think of tonight.
Dazzle camo, it kind of blends them in, ironically, into the scenery. May have been a little bit of trouble for Doug Evans, unfortunately. He's had a pretty quiet day so far, but up into turn 6, the tires on the rear end of that Miracle Flow Mercedes say, "What are you doing to me, Doug?" And around he goes into the Armco. The Evans family not having the best luck so far. We'll see how his son Jeff does in GTP coming up in just a few minutes. But white flag has flown. Jason Drescher is on a victory lap of sorts. He's got about a 10-second lead over Daniel Kranifus now, and he has basically not been touched since lap 1. Duino looked like he might give him a challenge. He ended up with a penalty, and the defending champion Jason Drescher did nothing of the sort, was clean on pit entry, and just hasn't looked back.
No, it hasn't looked back at all. It's dominated wire to wire. Had a pretty awesome run here. Oh, there's Greg Doucette. And I think Wilson got with him, but you saw Doucette well off track there.
Yeah, this was the battle for the last spot in the top 5 between Mikey Smith, Chase Wilson, and Doucette. Doucette tries to send it through the final corner, and the door was not quite open for either of those guys. Wilson continues on with no front end. We did see that isn't really too much of a deterrent. You can still finish the race with no front end, but he's going to be a little bit frustrated there. But coming through the final 2 corners, Jason Drescher won the championship last season, albeit with Dayton Lowe winning the final round. This season, though, he's going to put himself in the championship lead on his own doing and try to defend that championship once more. Jason Drescher wins the season opener at Barber in dominant fashion and absolutely puts himself in the conversation as the championship favorite already. A quiet day for Adam Brockway. How often did we say his name in the last 35 minutes or so? Probably not enough, as he has been absolutely perfect, and the Moradness driver in a sea of GT4 traffic crosses the line to return to GT4 and return to victory lane. Spare a thought for Aiden Young as well. P2, excellent drive from him, and the podium's going to come down to the final corner as well, Derek. We've got to look back. Genet, Lowendick, and Terrafino. It's a drag race to the line, but Arnaud Genet rounds off the podium. But what a battle that was in GT4.
It was a great race for those 3 guys. Overall, a great race, but especially for those 3 guys. They just felt kind of glued to each other probably the last, 10, 15 minutes or so.
Brockway's second win in a GT4 car for him, and I'm sure he's going to be a very, very happy boy. You're probably going to see Aiden Young win a race this season, though. It may have only been second for him, but he kept Brockway company all race long. That gap was basically a second for the entirety of the race. And Aiden, give him another track, give him maybe a little bit more practice. That is going to be a titanic championship battle. And that's not even talking about some of the other drivers who could contend in that as well. But as we get the final couple of stragglers crossing the line, Derek, before we get to the final results, what a way to start to the season. We had Calamity, we had Chaos, we had an understandable winner in LMP3, and now we can take a look at the finishing results. It was Jason Drescher victorious in LMP3, putting his stamp on the championship lead already. Daniel Kranifus came home in second, though. Very strong day from him, and Christian Garreton on his return to the PRL rounds off the podium. Eric Leroy, one of the most underrated drivers of the day in the 444 and P4. Mikey Smith rounds out the podium, and Chase Wilson did manage to finish 6th despite not having a front end for that entirety of the final lap. Dave Steveson in the 777 also finishes P7. Some good numerology for the Moradness M squad there. Greg Doucette, Sean Romig, and Calvin Myant round out the top 10 in LMP3. Corey Precker, 11th place, probably not too satisfying for him, but considering he was 19th at the end of lap 1, it might be better. Vincent LaRue P12, and Ian Starker rounds out the top 13 in the lead lap finishers. Gainesville, Kimball, Karanges, and Salaputis all ran into trouble. They ended up 1 lap down. David Duino, potential race-winning pace, ends in some slight tears, 5 laps down for him. And Doug Sorrentino, the lone car in the used car lot with heavy damage, 11 laps down at the end of it all. Got to go back to GT4 for Adam Brockway, victorious once more. Aiden Young in second, and Arnaud Genet in third. AAA on the podium. Ted Lowendick was close to the podium. Michael Terrafino absolutely hounding Ted Lowendick all race long, but they round out the top 5. And the winner of the preseason race, Floyd Kerr, he'll be looking to get back to his winning ways next week as he comes home this week with a P6. Dan Willis had a quiet day in P7. Good points for him. Turner Schroll, P8. And former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan, P9. Adam Ostrich rounds out the top 10. I hope we get to see his ostrich next week. Nathan Deering, Tim McLeish, and James O'Brien were the last drivers on the lead lap. Remember, James O'Brien started from the back of the grid after not getting a lap in qualifying. Will Jennings was 1 lap down, as were Pruitt, Branch, Doyle, Sessoms, Brown, and McGeehan. But the hits keep on coming as it was a very large field. Doug Evans was 1 lap down. Cade Smith had a technical issue. Nathan Jennings ran into trouble. And then the used car lot, Dean Kerr and Jean-Sebastien Bédard both ran into trouble very, very early and ended multiple laps down. Samuel Ma did not actually start the race, but hopefully we'll see him next week or in the future. But we've got a lot of drivers to talk to after the opening round of the season, and the driver who is probably the most recent driver we've talked to in this series, we'll bring him back in. Jason Drescher, right off your championship a couple of weeks ago. You've started this season in the best way possible in absolute domination. How did that go?
Oh, that one, it was interesting. Let's just put it that way. The lap traffic was pretty tough. I think there was one move that was not the best, but otherwise, yeah, it was a great race, and I was happy with my pace.
You've got no Dayton Lowe to battle with this season as he's moved up to GTP, but you do have Daniel Cranifus and Christian Garretone and David Duino and so many strong drivers. How are you looking forward to the next 8 rounds of the season, and how are you preparing for another hard championship battle?
You know, it's going to be tough. All I know is just got to put in the practice and hopefully have the pace. But yeah, we're going to have some good competition and good races this season.
Well, Jason, it's good to have you back. Good luck in your championship charge, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Jason Drescher coming home with the first win of the season in LMP3. And for once, we're not talking to Justin Ream as a GT4 winner. We're talking to Adam Brockway, who's got a GT4 win under his belt now, and he talks to Derek Watson.
Well, once again, congrats on the GT4 win, and congrats on this run tonight. How was it out there at Barber?
It was good. You know, the track was a little bit hotter than all the official session and all the practice sessions, so kind of had to adjust for that. But you know, traffic wasn't horrible today, so it was manageable. But you know, just getting the race win is a good feeling.
Yeah, it always is probably a great feeling. We saw you have a battle there with Aiden Young throughout the night, as well as the others. What was the hardest part of this race besides the weather?
Definitely the traffic management and trying not to lose ample amount of time. You know, a lot of these guys are really quick. You know, Arnaud, Aiden, a couple of these other guys, will really battle with you. So trying to minimize any time loss or mistakes and just keep pushing ahead and not worrying about the pressure from behind.
All right, well, as far as points paying races go, Adam, you are 1 for 1 on the season, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Have a good night, guys.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
Adam Brockway coming home P1 with the win in GT4, but let's head back up to LMP3 because we've got a driver who's always happy to be on the podium. Daniel Cranifus kicking off this season with another podium. Very strong run from you, and a little bit chaotic at times. How did it go from your perspective? Daniel, we can't hear you. Let's try one more time. Do we have a copy, Daniel Cranifus?
Hello.
There we go. Now we gotcha.
Yeah, chaotic is the perfect description. I had some struggles getting through traffic. I bumped into Arnaud. Very sorry for that. Just miscommunication on which side to get by on. And then Jason was just gone. So congrats to Jason. Congrats to Adam for the wins. But I had nothing for Jason. I had a wonderful battle with Christian. Really good job on his part. Yeah, good racing today. Man, that was intense.
So as we look forward to your second season in this series, what are you most looking forward to? Any place you're really attracted to? Any place you think you can grab that first win? What's it going to look like over the next 8 weeks?
Well, honestly, I felt like Sebring was a really good shot, so I was disappointed that was the warm-up race. Spa is always a good track for me. Really, the whole calendar is pretty strong. I'm comfortable with all those tracks, so I'm just trying to be consistent and bring the fight to Jason and the other top guys and just try to be on the podium every week.
Well, Daniel, we're happy to have you back. Happy to see you on the podium again, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks to my team, Rust Racing. Thanks to my parents for watching and my buddies, Josh and Mario, for watching. Take care.
What are your parents' names?
Michael and Irmgard. We are from Germany.
Shout out to Michael and Irmgard Kranifus. We love to hear that. Daniel, we'll see you next week. That's some good stuff. I always love to get the family names in here. But we've got a couple more drivers before we get into qualifying for the GTP LMP2 series. How about second in GT4, Aiden Young with Derek Watson?
Aiden representing fiercely forward tonight in that beautiful bright yellow and black machine. How fun was that there at Barber tonight?
Oh, it was definitely a lot of fun. I mean, I was pushing so hard to try and stay with Adam, but you know, when two really good drivers are even on pace, it's kind of hard to gain and it's kind of hard to pull away. So I mean, I kind of talked to Adam a little bit. He said he was sweating all the way through the race too. So I mean, that's how you know me and him we're having a little bit of fun there. I'm a little disappointed because I got held up a little bit by some lap cars, and you know, they say in the driver's briefing that don't ignore blue flags. Some people, I guess maybe they didn't hear it, so I kind of got blocked, but you know, it is what it is. We take this momentum into next week. Hopefully we get the dub next week, but I mean, this week was a lot of fun. I didn't have too much practice because, I mean, I got to test the USF 2000 on Thursday, so I was gone in Florida all week, so I had no practice. So I came into this, I was like, well, we're going to have some fun, just see what we can do. So I asked my team for a setup, they gave me one, and, well, here I am on the podium, so I'm happy.
Well, congrats on the test. Real quick, I'm going to ask you one last question here. Tell me the decision, what went behind the decision to change classes, or what, you know, go from GTP last season down to GT4s.
Well, I'm actually a lot better in GT4 than I am in GTP. Don't get me wrong, I'm still pretty good in GTP, can still be pretty fast in that, but usually when my skill set falls in, it's like GT4, kind of slower speed GT cars. I tend to have a lot more fun in those, so I can be faster for longer periods of time in it, and I think it showed today with how my pace was. But I also just I came back for redemption. I got close to winning a title once. I think I finished 5th, and I didn't have the best last few races, which kind of screwed me on getting on the championship podium or the championship win. So I'm here for redemption to see if I can't win it this season.
All right, well, good luck in that journey, and we'll see you next week in Zandvoort.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week. All right, that's Aiden Young, finished P2 in a GT4s tonight.
Indeed it is. Arnaud Genet, I think we'll get a chat with him next week, Derek, because we do have to move on to GTP LMP2 action. We've had so much fun here in LMP3-GT4 here at Barber. We're going to have even more fun next week as we go to Zandvoort. But GTP LMP2 coming up tonight. More racing action, so don't go away. We kick the season off at one of the newest tracks on iRacing, if not the newest road course we have at all, Algarve International Circuit. You might know it as Portimao, you might know it as Algarve. All we know, Derek, is that it is very, very new, and drivers are learning it with every lap.
Yep, every lap, drivers are learning it. Of course, it's been available this season across iRacing. But look at the schedule all the way down, Joey. Imola, Road Atlanta, Long Beach, Mugello, Spa, Laguna Seca, Indy Road Course, and we finished at Misano, pardon me. Man, there are some courses here that if it gets wet, there are some scary courses on the schedule.
Talk about new tracks on iRacing. Exactly, imagine that. But Algarve and Misano both added to iRacing in this most recent update. So it's sandwiching the season with new tracks. And as Derek mentions, rain a possibility at every single one of these tracks, with rain enabled for GTP cars and for the Dallara LMP2. We could have a wet race at some point this season. There is no wet race today. I can already tell you that. We've looked at the forecast and it is totally dry. but it's going to be exciting all the same, Derek, as we have a cast of characters returning from last season. We have our dominant champion Pat Pelshaw returning, Boris Ovando race winner, Michael Diaz race winner, and we also have a guy named Sean Campbell returning, one of the winningest drivers in the PRL, the winner of our PRL All-Star Invitational a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, maybe the best American sim racing driver there is right now. That's who Pat Pelshaw has to fight with this season.
And a driver who's grateful to you for reminding him there's a race tonight.
Indeed. Pat Pelshaw was here, though. He was ready, and he's actually got a new teammate this season as Daniel Zeggers, who fought for the championship in LMP2 last season. He came up just short after the championship finale. After being helped out in LMP2 by his teammate Pat Pelshaw and a few others, he's actually moved up and joined Pat Pelshaw at Precision Racing Esports in the GTPs. So it's an even stronger effort up there now. Pat, though, definitely going to be leading this team so strong in this car. Absolutely dominant when he gets the practice in and he gets the rhythm down. Right now he is only P2, a couple of tenths off of Campbell, but he was fastest in practice, and he's definitely looking to build up here on the second lap.
Yeah, doing a great job on the second lap here, getting around this course here. Of course, this is a track out in Portugal. This track, by the way, newer than the last one. This track opened in 2008, Joey, so once again, not very much, oh man, up on the curb there. Not very much history here. Of course, it's hosted a couple F1 races and whatnot. So a track that the iRacing community was excited to see come to the service, though.
Yes, I was very excited about this track, and it's the best layout of this track. Through turn 14, very, very long corner. It's deceptively long. It's actually a full 180 degrees, and then into this final corner. It's so long. There's so much elevation change. You're up, and then you're down, and then you're back up again. It's absolute craziness. And as Pat Pelshaw brings it to the line, working on getting timing up for you, I think he was actually slowing down coming to the line there, knowing that he wasn't going to improve. And it's exactly right. Pelshaw, no improvement on that lap. He's going to set up for one more time around. As we take a look at an LMP2 car for the first time today, Derek, Jeremy Carter returns after another season of competition here. And he gets his first lap on the board.
The first lap on the board, see him come down through turn 1 here, make that right-hander, and get just up on the curbs for making another right-hander here. You talked about the ups and downs of this track. You know, I've heard this track, because of the elevation changes, almost compared to like a Nürburgring. Not because of the difficulty or the number of corners per se, but it's due to the amount of elevation change you go through lap to lap.
There is your current order in qualifying. Should it really be a surprise to see Sean Campbell on pole, a driver who competes in this machinery at the highest level in iRacing special events for Race Clutch, and he's just totally back on it. There is Mr. Campbell. I believe he is in his Race Clutch colors. I don't know if he's officially competing for Race Clutch in this series. I think he's just kind of competing as Sean Campbell on his own, but all the same. Just a very fast driver, a driver who has this kind of car figured out, and as you mentioned, Derek, a driver who almost forgot we were racing tonight until about an hour ago when he finally hopped in and got some practice in.
Yeah, so at least it's good for him. It was this race and not the last one, right? He got some time to get in here and get some practice in, but with those kind of speeds, I think he's going to be just fine. And maybe some drivers wishing he woke up like another, hour later.
That tends to be how things go for Sean Campbell. When he started in the PRL and GT4, he won 10 out of 10 races in a season. When he did LMP3, he won every race that he showed up for and missed one race that somebody else ended up winning. But as Sean brings it to the line, is he going to improve on his best? He's actually not slower on that second lap. Leaves himself somewhat vulnerable from an improvement from Pelshaw, maybe an improvement from Alec Bergstrom, who puts him up into P3, or maybe an improvement from Boris Ovando. Just kidding. Just as I say that, throws it off the road, and that'll be the end of his qualifying session. LMP2's competitive, though. Defending champion the last 2 seasons, I should say. Jack Hedgecock's currently on pole, only by 15 thousandths over Alex Caruso, though. A couple extra tenths over Luke Wallace, but Wallace on likely his final lap here, seeing if he can improve in that SRT number 27.
Yeah, currently sitting in P4 here, about 7/10 of a second off of getting that pole here. Trying to run that down, see if he's going to make the corner here, try to probably track it out wide to the left. Gets back in the throttle, you hear the engine there. Rides that inside corner. That's that long corner you talked about, I believe. Comes into the last corner here before the long straightaway.
Big improvement, 3/10 down. It's going to improve him only one spot, though. Will not get him up on the front row with Hedgecox and Caruso. Andrew Wood is back with us for another season, the Precision Racing Esports driver, who is not racing for Precision Racing Esports this season. I believe he's actually with Go-In Racing. No, he's not. He's with Echelon Simsport. That livery just slightly confusing. That looks like the Go-In Racing livery from last season, but now an Echelon driver in the PRL. And looking to move his way a little bit forward. Driver with a ton of experience in open wheel competition in the PRL, tons of IndyCar experience, and a Connecticut driver, which has to make me slightly biased.
Yeah, but it does make you slightly biased being a Connecticut native yourself. So we'll see how he does here through the course. A 1:33.584. So he's gained about 2 seconds here to get up to the pole. Currently sitting P19. He's doing a good job here, trying to keep on the track. It's, of course, in qualifying. If you get off track, iRacing will kill the lap, and you'll score zeros. And I thought he might have got all 4 tires there, but he's going to keep going, so maybe not.
Wood out of the final corner and across the line. Can he improve on P19? Improves by about 3/10. Is that going to mean much in terms of position? Only by a few. P15. And very surprisingly, ahead of Joshua Chinsky. Chinsky, a race winner in this class, always fighting for podiums, and he's currently P16 in LMP2. He'll be looking to move his way forward. Johnny Luna, good to see him back in the PRL after a couple of seasons off. We normally see him in GT competition, in GT3 and GT4. But he says, you know what, I'll do a different kind of GT. I'll do GTP instead this season. Edward Vardanesian is done with his qualifying lap, but Johnny Luna is just trying to get some extra corners in here, Derek. It's not going to count for a qualifying lap. The clock will tick to 0, but every corner helps.
Listen, and when it's a new track on iRacing, as he said, every corner counts. You want to try to get in there and get any practicing you can. So he'll be happy to turn laps here for another 7 seconds or so before the session expires.
But as the clock does tick to 0, technically Sean Campbell is the only driver in PRL history to win a wet race, as he did in the GR86s at Phoenix Road in the PRL All-Star Invitational. Maybe he'll get a chance to win a legitimate wet race some point this season. Today, it's going to have to be in the dry, as once again, Sean Campbell puts it on pole. And I'm going to tell you what number pole position this is for him, because I can look that up. That's number 23 for Sean Campbell. Pat Pelshaw, though, the defending champion, suddenly has an absolute Goliath in front of him to challenge him for this championship. Alec Bergstrom, good qualifying from him in P3. He starts alongside Daniel Zeggers, who moves up from LMP2. Michael Diaz, a race winner at the end of last season, starts P5, and Dave Menino starts alongside him. Then P7 was Boris Ovando. Nathan Olson starts alongside him. Bradley Holly, solid qualifying from him in P9, and Mitchell Johnson rounds out the top 10. The teams are slightly off, so just ignore those for now. We'll get those fixed for next week. Zachary Deas, P11, alongside Zach Hebert, the Echelon driver, not the Vaporworks driver. Ignore those, like I said. Nicholas Schwartz starts P13, unlucky 13th, alongside Carter James, not to be confused with James Carter. Nathan Ray, P15, alongside the second Evans, Jeff Evans, a little bit lower than he'd like in P16. Johnny Luna in the Porsche starts P17, alongside Nikos Sanidakis, and Dayton Lowe theoretically starts P19, but I didn't see him put a lap down in qualifying. I hope he is out there on the field, because when he was out there in LMP3 last season, he pulled some insane margins and could have been the champion if he was able to make it to the final round. Stephen Verity, Darian Roy, and Casey O'Brien. Hopefully we'll see all 3 of them on the grid. Not sure, though, as they didn't set a lap time in qualifying. Down in LMP2, though, the champion of the last 2 seasons, Jack Hedgecox, will start from pole once again, as he starts alongside Alex Caruso on the front row. Luke Wallace and Jeremy Carter, row number 2. Caleb Lehman and Anthony Dring, row number 3. And once again, ignore the teams. We'll get those fixed for next week. Lord Rob Campbell has gotten a slight name change for this season. Old Nick McLaughlin having a little bit of fun with him. He starts alongside Corey Sarcone, and rounding out the top 10, Josh Goen and Chip Michaels in P10. Craig Bray, one of the more Adness drivers, starts P11 alongside Eddie Layton, a returning driver from last season, and unlucky 13th went to Mr. John Leedy. Marco Jansen, a new driver, starts P14 ahead of Andrew Wood, who is actually at the Go In Racing team on loan from Precision Racing Esports to even out their lineup. Joshua Chinsky for SRT starts alongside him. John Krauser, P17, alongside Tyler Pierre Richards, who returns after a couple of seasons off in the PRL. Dino Vella, P19, alongside Andrew Venaro. Daniel Trinka, Stephen Hassett, TJ Griffin, and Jeff Fleischman round out the top 24. But there's one more hit that'll come. Edward Vardanessian did not get a lap in qualifying, but he'll start shotgun on the field in that beautiful Dragon in the Spike number 25. In the number 25 as well. How about that? A little bit of numerology to end the grid. But Derek, we are ready to go once more. It's another season in GTP and LMP2. We've upped the speed, we've upped the drivers a little bit, we've upped the intensity. And I don't know how this is going to go. Pat Pelshaw was an unstoppable object in GTP last season. The only time I believe he lost a race on track was when he was taken out, or when he took himself out with a lapped car at Montreal. When he's at the front of the race, he can run away with a thing, but he has another dominant driver in Sean Campbell, who looks to end his reign and somehow be even more dominant.
Yeah, if that's even possible, right? That corner right there you just saw on the screen, that's my one marker for concern in the first couple of laps. When the drivers are getting up to speed with this big field, we'll see if that corner can stay clean and safe. But I have my concerns. But here we are. Now it's GTP and LMP2's turn. See, look at the skies. No rain. It's the Blind Melon song. And I think we're just about ready for the pace car to pull off and for Barney the Flagman to get to do his job.
Very temperate in Portugal today. Good temperature to be out there drinking your Madeira and eating your pastel de nata. 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 70 on the track. Kind of a driver's dream, a spectator's dream as well. Minimal wind as well. There is a little bit, but not too much to worry about. I do want to spare a thought for Ryan O'Connor as well, by the way, who's watching from the chat. Almost a race winner last season, a very fast GTP driver. Taking one season off from the PRL. He'll be a spectator for a couple of weeks, but we'll definitely see him back in fighting form in a couple of weeks' time or a couple of seasons' time, and he'll be looking for his first win from that point on. But only a few more corners to go here, Derek. Last couple of bits of heat into the tires. Last couple of bits of preparation as Sean Campbell and Pat Pelshaw prepare to do battle. Who's going to win? I'll put you on the spot here. Will it be Campbell? Will it be Pelshaw? Or will it be somebody picking up the wreckage from behind him?
Yeah, that's where my vote was going to be. I'm going to go with someone else. I think these two guys will unintentionally or possibly could make some contact, and there could be a beneficiary somewhere back in the field.
I honestly can't think of a single time that Sean Campbell has crashed in the PRL, though, which is kind of crazy. Because he's competed in GT4, in GT3, in NASCAR, and a whole host of other things. But there's a first time for everything. We'll see what happens as the iRacing Porsche pace car pulls down pit lane and leaves the field in control of Sean Campbell, a driver who's on a great high right now in terms of PRL competition. He's going to look to return to victory lane. And in the Race Clutch GTP, he takes the green flag for the first GTP LMP2 race of the season. They're already stratified out 3 wide, though, as it's Moradness, it's Precision Racing Esports, and it's SRT 3 wide into turn 1. They get that resolved very, very quickly, though, as they take the green flag in LMP2 as well. Look at how wide this front straight is, though. It looks like Pocono coming into turn 1. 4 wide, a little bit of contact, resolved in LMP2. There's a spin in the back of GTP. I think that might be Michael Diaz, Boris Ovando, rather, his teammate going to the back of the field. And very, very wide is Jack Hedgecox, losing the lead in turn 2 in LMP2.
On both screens, lots of action happening, lots of wide racing. Joey, I have no idea how they went from 4 wide to 2 wide to 1 wide in the LMP2s, but they've done it pretty well here. So now through that corner there, and now everyone's kind of got
big trouble in turn 5, Derek, and they're piling in. Some drivers with the LMP2 ARCA brakes still trying to figure out where to go. Jeremy Carter involved, the 13 involved. Andrew Venaro is back there. Corey Sircone, Joshua Chinsky. I don't even know what that thing is. That looks like a tadpole. It's lost all the body panels. Absolute craziness in turn 5.
That car's not going to drive very well. It's got no front end, no wing, no back end. It's like an old Model T, if you will.
That's Luke Wallace, and a big spin as well for another driver falling to the back of the field. I think that might have been Daniel Trinka. but it was so clean for a few corners, Derek. But then coming into turn 5, just like at Barber, it's the first big braking zone, it's the first big hairpin, and trouble happens here at Algarve as well.
Yeah, trouble at Algarve in turn 5 is sort of identical in that sense. Of course, 10 more minutes on this race, Joey. It's a 45-minute race, so the drivers don't need to feel as pressured to make a move. Doesn't mean they won't, just means they don't need to.
We've got some GTP LMP2 interactions early as around goes Dave Menino. Not really expecting to have to deal with traffic that early, but he fell to the back of the field very early on, and contact into turn 1. A good recovery on the asphalt, though, means Dave Menino falls even further to the back of the field.
Yeah, even further back in the field where he followed. Really, just kind of did a full 360, grabbed the gear and went for it there. And I'm sure now he's a little frustrated. And that mental frustration as a driver. Hold on, there's more.
New leader in LMP2 is Alex Caruso has gone around. I think we're going to pan to him immediately. I don't know where Alex Caruso is as he continues to fall down the order. There he is, finally pointed straight again. But as he took the lead on lap 1 with Hedgecox running into trouble, now it comes back around with Caruso falling down to P5 and maybe losing one more spot with Rob Campbell on the scene trying to pounce. Caruso to the inside of Josh Goen, though. He's getting aggressive. He's getting angry. A little bit of contact as well. This is a far more angry race than we saw at Barber so far, Derek. Look at that dive to the inside.
Yeah, look at that tire smoke right there. These guys really are diving and trying to make everything happen. Man, these guys think we're 4 minutes left or 41 minutes left. I'm not. Oh, hold on.
And how about another spin for good measure? Falling all the way down the order, the number 35 falls off the podium. Anthony Dring having the best race of his PRL career so far. Unfortunately, he'll be crying a little bit after that as side-by-side down the front straight, Rob Campbell and Josh Goen going at it. Who could be later on the brakes into turn 1? It's not going to matter as Campbell, with a slightly lower level of downforce, keeps himself faster in a straight line and keeps himself in P4.
Does a great job here. You see about 5 or 6 cars in line for the moment. You see Rob Campbell up there leading. And I think we're not ready to get through the replays, Joey. Oh, hold another car off.
Yep, even more trouble. I don't care who that is, though. I want to see lap 1. Jeremy Carter spins essentially in front of the field, Derek. And look at this, just piling in. Not a break in sight from half of those guys.
So here's the problem with that turn, and I know we're going to have more replays, though, Joey, is in that corner with it being so wide, as you're entering turn 5, I imagine it's pretty much impossible to see the exit of turn 5 until you're right about there.
Who did we lose in that accident, or at least at some point on lap 1? Daniel Trinka, Eddie Layton, Corey Sircone, Andrew Venara, Joshua Chinsky, Carter James, Jeremy Carter, Luke Wallace, and now Nico Sanadakis a little bit later. We'll ride on board with Joshua Chinsky, though. This is what he saw coming into turn 5. Did he see anything before turning in, Derek? That is the question. And suddenly,
saw it right there.
Yep, there's Jeremy Carter.
And all now he's going to see is that car in front of him and he's hoping that everyone behind him saw what he didn't see.
Ooh, this could get dicey into turn 1. Johnny Luna and Zachary Deus going at it for the last spot in the top 10. They do get that resolved, though, as Deus does get through in that Acura. It's a very Acura-dominated series so far this season. It was all Acura all the time last season. Top 9 cars in this race still Acuras, with Johnny Luna, the lead Porsche, in P10. Talking a lot about recovery drives in LMP3 and GT4, by the way, and we've got a recovery drive here as well. Boris Ovando in that number 2, a race winner in this class last season. He does not want to be this far back, and he's only got forward to look. Dave Menino's only got backwards to look as he's down pit lane as well. Welcome to the party.
And down pit road here way too early. These, of course, will not, or actually it will count as a stop, but it's not going to be good enough for that fuel stop they'll need to make in order to get done.
So here's the initial spin for Dave Menino, Derek. Yep, a little bit of contact, and then actually some help from one of his GTP rivals to get himself turned around. That was quite kind. That helped him get pointed in a straight line. Didn't quite have the help the next time around, though. This is LMP2 on LMP2. Stephen Hassett and Ed Vardanesian going at it. Vardanesian in the brighter purple. Stephen Hassett in the pink and black Vice Motorsport livery, and Hassett's going to hang on for the moment.
You know, and one of the challenges of driving a prototype like a GTP, Joey, is it doesn't necessarily always have the resiliency that a GT car does. If you get into contact or an accident or have damage in a prototype, you have a harder time keeping them on track and keeping them rolling with that major damage to them. So you really do have to come down pit road here. Let's see this replay here. He's got up on the curb and spun it by himself, and yeah, no one hit the, oh no, hold on.
Nicholas Schwartz did. Nicholas Schwartz got a big bump there, and one of the Porsches coming by as well. I think that was Darian Roy. There has been lots and lots of trouble here, and you know who's been the benefactor of all this trouble, Derek? Mr. Jeff Evans, the top 10 master of the GTPs, I think we can say. Started, what, P16? A little bit further back. Johnny Luna wasn't too happy with him getting by as he clips the curb and Boris Ovando gets around. But somehow, every week, Jeff Evans finds himself in the top 10, and he's done it again already.
Yeah, we saw Jeff's dad, Doug, in the previous race, and you can see both of them race Wednesday nights in the Grand National Series here on RaceSpot, but Jeff doing a great job up in P10. Got this battle going on around him. I thought I saw like a hockey body check a moment ago between some of those cars.
Yeah, there's definitely been quite a few of those. We might need Arnaud with the referee livery to come back here. Nathan and Johnny. Ray gets to the inside, and Nathan Ray does hang on to P12, and far less confusingly this season, not in a car that looks like it has a Phantom Whataback sticker on it. We know he's not a Whataback driver. We know he is with his own team over there, and he does hang on ahead of Johnny Luna. Anthony Dring is the next driver in our carousel of entertainment, Derek, as this was when he spun to the inside of the grass, contact with a GTP, and very lucky to not be collected by anybody else, and some quick thinking to get it on the grass.
And really lucky, by the way, because one of the new updates in iRacing this season, besides the rain, Joey, has been the effect of the grass and how it behaves. And the further away you get from the track, the stickier the grass gets, the more difficult the grass gets. He could have got himself stuck out there if he wasn't careful there.
Nathan Olson and Alec Bergstrom battle for the podium between two teammates. Olson's one of the newer drivers this season, but a driver we very much need to watch out for, Derek. Because iRating doesn't mean everything in a league scenario like this. You know, you have drivers who mostly compete in leagues without building up their rating in official racing. Nathan Olson, though, 8,000 iRating. Just below, actually, at 700, at 7,900, but we'll say it's 8,000 all the same. Second only to Sean Campbell with 8,700. That is a big number, and that definitely puts the fear in the eyes of some of his competitors.
That's a massive number. That's a massive number for the. Let's see this last replay. Oh, look at that wiggle. Oh, no.
Yeah, Nico Sonidakis hard into the Armco. Those were those lap one jitters, Derek. I think we're almost through with the carousel of entertainment, but we may have some more before too long. But Jack Hedgecox, after all that chaos, has held on to the lead in LMP2. His teammate Andrew Wood is on a drive forward. Him versus Dino Vella for P12. Wood does hang on, but Vella's got the door to the inside, trying to pounce. Hops the curb, though, and gives the Wood the momentum for the next corner. Very wide for Dino.
Wow, way wide up in the paint there. And now we'll get back behind that orange car and try to, or red car, pardon me, try to make something happen here. But woo, way wide for that corner he was. Now back up to a different battle. This is Caden Lehman and Alex Caruso. This is second and third in that class up in the LMP2s, or the P217s, if you will. Man, look at Lehman. That car seems to be just not as responsive as he wants it to be.
Well, that car is more viewable, we can say, more differentiable than it has been in previous seasons, because previously the SRT liveries were basically all identical. They were all white and slightly green and blue. But this year, this season, Caleb Lehman is in the all yellow livery. That's going to make our lives so much easier, Derek. He's finally Caleb Lemon.
Yeah, as a commentator, there's nothing we love more, by the way, than distinguishable liveries. It is cool to see a team all have a livery together, but man, when they get lined up in a row, it's kind of hard to figure out who's who sometimes.
I'm just happy for Caleb Lemon. That's good stuff.
Caleb Lemon, that's interesting. By the way, Joey, I saw this wiggle earlier that we saw in that last replay. I was curious, did he get back in the gas? Is that what it was?
Oof, oof, oof.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. I thought maybe he gassed it up too soon and lost the car on the outside, but no, maybe that car just had its mind made up that it was going to lose it like that. I don't know.
It's an evil GTP By the way, I've sent a message out to Sean Campbell, who's been known to check Discord while driving and to do all sorts of funny things while driving. I'm trying to get him for a mid-race interview, and hopefully by saying this on the air, I'll be able to shame him into getting in here, but we'll wait and see, because he's not really worrying about anybody behind him right now. He's pulled out to a 4-second lead, while Pat Pelshaw is actually getting hounded. This is not something we're used to, but he's got Alec Bergstrom, Nathan Olson, the two Moradness drivers all over the back of him.
That's a skill, by the way. Can I say that? That's a massive skill. Like, I can barely put together like one word of messaging while typing and driving and iRacing. That guy can check Discord. Whew.
Well, you should see him play Bloons Tower Defense, Derek.
I don't even know what that is, Joey.
It's I don't actually know what it is either.
I mean, it's tower defense. I know what tower defense game is, but I've never heard of this specific one. But yeah,
that's what he used to do while driving. There were times.
Are you insinuating he does it while driving?
Not anymore, but there were times when he was known to get a little bit bored behind the wheel of the car and have to stimulate himself a little bit with Bloons Tower Defense. He's Gen Z. That's what you got to do. I think he might. No, he still is Gen Z. I'm Gen Z. Sean is too. I think we're a couple of years safe in Gen Z. We're not anywhere close to Gen Alpha.
I don't know what Gen I am. I don't want to think about it.
Boomer.
I'm a boomer.
Boris Ovando in a little bit of trouble. Well, actually not. No, I heard Boris Ovando on our screens, and Boris Ovando around. It was actually Boris Ovando around Jeff Evans, so it was the good version of around.
Yeah, as if there is a good version of around, I suppose that would be it. You saw him get around Evans. Man, look at this battle here, though. This is Anthony Deering and John Krauser and others, 9, 10, and 11, really battling pretty hard here in LMP2.
And this LMP2 class was so strong last season that I think a lot of drivers were very attracted to it. They said, I like that level of competition, I love the clean action, and I want to be a part of that. Anthony Dring was in the GTP class last season, and he's elected to move down. John Krauser was in the GT4 class in the LMP3-GT4 challenge, and he's got to a little bit faster machinery as well. So we'll see those drivers staying in the PRL, but trying to keep this class alive, as this was kind of a question when this series was first introduced. Will anybody even take the LMP2 car? Will everybody focus on the GTPs and make it a single-make series? But as it turns out, Derek, the PRL GTP-LMP2 series might just be the strongest LMP2 field on iRacing with the most consistent entries. It's been a remarkable success.
Well, and I don't like to give spoilers, but I'm going to tell you right now, Joey, that whenever week it rains in this series, the LMP2s could likely win that race. So, yeah, there's a good reason to be in an LMP2 right now. It's called rain.
I'm really hoping we see that. We saw the schedule a couple of weeks ago, and there's so many places I want to see rain. There may have been trouble for Johnny Luna, though, so we'll get to that before we can theorize where the worst possible place to get rain was. I think it may have been a slightly technical issue for him, though. But Derek, Long Beach rain, that would be very, very difficult. I mean, there's not really a place where it would be easy to take on the rain, but Long Beach especially sounds like quite a challenge, because that's a challenge enough in the dry.
So I say I stepped in one week, and I think it helped you out a couple of seasons ago at Long Beach in the dry. It was already chaos, would be a nice word for it. Now let's add some water to it. Yeah, that's going to be scary.
Yeah, whether it was LMP3 GT4, whether it was this series, or even when you just have single make series. I remember the Formula 3 series many seasons ago had one of the craziest races of all time at Long Beach. So I always look forward to that one. By the way, Jeff Evans back around Boris Ovando, but it may not have been a totally Jeff Evans induced pass. It was a Boris Ovando mistake induced pass.
Boris Ovando needs to think whatever iRacing deities he believes in right there, because that looked like it was destined to finish at a wall. Somehow he got that gathered up there and got it saved and avoided the worst possible fate. So good job for him, for Boris. Woo. Oh, man. You know, and what he did there, all kidding aside, that I think a lot of drivers need to learn from, Joey, is he got off the gas. Yes, he lost time because of it, but a lot of drivers, there's that momentary stress or reaction when you lose the car. Your first instinct is to slam on the gas pedal. But Boris did the right thing and let off the gas, let the car catch itself, and then got back into it.
I mentioned Boris was coming off a win in GTP last season, but he's actually coming off an even more recent win. The first ever winner in a Super Formula car in the PRL, just last week on Thursday, was Boris Ovando. So he's on quite a high, and he's got quite the double bill this season, competing in both this series and in the Super Formula series. And I don't know, is he competing in the GT3 Sprint series as well? I'm gonna have to check that. But
I don't
even
think
with just
he was last week. No, I don't remember his name.
He is on the entry list, so theoretically, Boris Ovando is going to have a very, very busy season this year.
Yeah, very, very busy season all over the RaceSpot broadcast. By the way, Joey, this is our first week, a full week of PRL on RaceSpot. Monday nights here, Tuesday GT3s, Wednesday nights the NASCAR, Thursday night Super Formulas, and then Sunday night NASCAR. We are officially live 5 nights a week.
Lots and lots of action. Action for P5, though, as Daniel Zegers, the new kid in town in GTP, is trying to hold off his teammate Michael Diaz. It's good to see Daniel up with the big boys. He was kind of a little bit on his own. He did have teammates in LMP2, but he was frequently up at the front of the field without his teammates, and now he's got a little bit of a promotion up to the lead GTP squad, up with Pelsha and Diaz and Ovando and the rest of the gang. And he's absolutely doing a good job holding off his teammate Michael Diaz, who is the defending GTP race winner. He won the last round of the season last season.
Yeah, it's always a great way to end the season with that little bit of momentum and confidence boost. And you kind of get to sit there and think about it for a few weeks between PRL seasons and know how well you did. Look at them both going to try to get inside that purple car, and they both do pretty cleanly. And look at that. That bright purple car is beautiful, by the way. I'm a big fan of that.
I believe that's Tyler Pierre Richards, if I'm not mistaken. He's always had a colorful car. It's always good to be able to differentiate his vehicles out there on track. We've got a pit stop for Boris Ovando already. He's had so much misfortune. He's gone off strategy by all that I think he said, you know what, I'm just going to go even more off strategy, make my pit stop early, and see what comes of it if I find some clean track a little bit further back.
Yeah, you know, there's a thought within business world, Joey, of the way you succeed. You're going to be better than, less than, or different than your opponent. So he's going for the different than style, which is, hey, let me pit early, get out of the way, just, you know, make it happen. Maybe it got him out of traffic and got him a chance to cool down, because he should be good if he pitted right there. It's an early pit stop, but he should be good as far as fuel and making it to the end of the race.
And by the way, if you're wondering where Dayton Lowe is tonight, unfortunately, just didn't get the practice time he wanted and didn't feel comfortable taking this on in race conditions. So unfortunately, we'll have to wait until next week, I think, to see Dayton Lowe in full racing condition. But absolutely look forward to that. That guy won races in LMP3 last season by 20 seconds, by 30 seconds at times. If you want a guy who can take the fight to Pat Pelsha and Sean Campbell this season, Dayton Lowe is definitely going to be one of those drivers, so look forward to seeing him back next week. But anyway, as we sit here now, we ride on board with Daniel Zegers looking out of the rear end, because Diaz has been hounding him. You see the sector comparison, though. For all that time Diaz gains in Sector 1, he loses it all again in Sector 2, and that's the ultimate frustration. He hasn't been able to find a way by anywhere.
No, not really a way by anywhere. This is another track sort of like Barber, where passing points are at a premium in these vehicles. So you're really going to make something happen when you get there. Look at this battle here. This is going to be a tight battle down to the left-hander. That's turn 5.
Wooden Krauser.
Look at it.
A little bit of a wiggle on exit. Looked like he might have had that done. Shut the door on Krauser, but loses all that momentum. The inside, though, coming down the hill, gets him that spot back. And Krauser forced to wait one more time. I do like these two cars with Krauser and his teammate Marco Jansen. They're slightly inspired by a certain paper company from a certain sitcom, and with that, you have the bright paper white car that doesn't look like anything else. I like it. So
if I tell you that I'm not a fan of said sitcom, do I get kicked out of the commentary booth?
I've never watched it. I've seen one episode.
Oh, okay. I saw the pilot, and it was boring.
I watched Scott's Tots, which is no.
I don't even know what that is, but just the title made me giggle. But all right,
it's known for being the most cringeworthy episode, and that's exactly why I watched it. And
that makes sense.
I haven't watched it since. But just as I say that, John Krauser down pit lane with a little bit of Fast and Furious drift on entry. I hope he got that slowed down, Derek,
Hard to
because
say.
don't want to get a speeding penalty this early in the day.
No, that looked like a good candidate for it there. If you're slocking up the tires that late, we'll keep an eye on that. But I was thinking the same thing. I was like, boy, I hope that's not a speeding penalty. We'll see a pass right here. Good job getting it done clean through turn 1. Now the teammate's going to come through.
A little bit of a push.
That pass, yeah.
A little bit of a push, a little bit of a shove, but all the same, getting by that LMP2. These guys have stratified out a little bit, Bergstrom and Olsen, but they are teammates, so I wonder if they're thinking team strategy potentially. How do we organize? How do we jump Pat Pelshaw? And how do we avoid slowing each other down? I think these two teammates might have to ask the same thing, because Diaz is closer than he's ever been. He's hounding the back of his teammate Zeggers. Still hasn't been able to make the move, and as they run right now, almost 10 seconds off of P4.
Yeah, almost 10 seconds off. So right now, the only...
Oh, and both of them. Target fixation for Michael Diaz. Wiggles it as Zeggers spins it around. And one of the LMP2s off the road as well. Synchronized mistakes from the PRE teammates.
Was there contact? That first wiggle we saw, it looked like there was contact.
There wasn't contact. They were a couple of car lengths away from each other, but target fixation, absolute central. Zeggers goes off in the first place, and Diaz does the same thing. I don't even know if that was target fixation or if that was just synchronized mistakeitude.
That's like team rhythmic gymnastics for the Olympics this year. That's what that was.
Team USA. Andrew Vanara was the driver who was kind of on the scene there, seeing what the heck in the world are you guys doing here, and takes to the gravel to try and make sure he doesn't get involved. Speaking of strategy, though, Pat Pelshaw is done running in second in clean air. He says, I'm going to kick off the pit cycle for the leaders, and I'm going to try and go off strategy to give myself a chance to get anywhere closer to Sean Campbell. He's going to be all on his lonesome on pit lane, because he is literally the only driver in the top 13 to make a pit stop so far.
Yeah, a little earlier than I thought any of the leaders would come down and pit, so I'm a little surprised, but we'll see what Pelshaw can do with that here. What I'm curious to see, though, is if these two teammates can run together and save some fuel and make up some time on the leaderboard that way after the pit stops. And now here comes that race car you saw earlier, that black and red here. That's Sean Campbell, and doing a great job here. That's your leader.
If anybody has Sean Campbell's phone number, can you call him and tell him to come into the booth? There's got to be someone out there who has it. Is anybody at Race Clutch listening? You guys have it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But, you know, something I'm thinking about in my head, the contrast between these two races tonight, Joey. This is a track that's, you know, still new. 2008 is when it opened. It's brand new to iRacing. But I feel like because of how much it got used during the COVID pandemic, very, very familiar to most race fans. Unlike our last racetrack, I think Barber's a mystery to a lot of people.
Maybe if they're not IndyCar viewers, but Sean Campbell down pit lane here. I hope he takes this pit stop time to look at his Discord and read his messages and jump in for a mid-race interview, but we'll see, because it's not going to be a very long pit stop. If you look at Pat Pelshaw's pit stop time from a couple of moments ago, that was 16 seconds. You can't imagine Sean's going to be stopped for much more than that. I think there was a little bit of trouble here, though. Nathan Olsen lost about a full second to his teammate Alec Bergstrom, and I have to imagine that cloud of smoke in turn 2 may have been related.
Yeah, it may have been. Let's take a look at this here and see what's going to happen. This is the replay here in the top of your screen. Oh, hello.
But how about that for a Tony Hawk ollie over the curb?
Yeah, that's impressive. Just like Fast and Furious drifted the car, got it up in the air, and then it just sort of kept going. That's something. Wow.
We'll be getting that replay spooled up for you, because Tony Hawk, if you're watching, look at this. Through turn 1, perfectly fine, hops the curb, gets in the rut, boom. That was beautiful.
And look how,
not fast, but beautiful.
Well, yeah, but that wheel was pointed directly flat and straight when he hit the ground. He let go of it almost. That was, wow.
Put that one on the replay reels. Put that one on the highlight reel. It might only be a podium. It might only be 4th place for Nathan Olsen, but he's definitely got his highlight for the season already.
That's an iRacing not top 10 if I've seen one.
Good stuff. And that is something to remember in all seriousness. With those curbs on the outside, this is a grade 1 track. This was designed for formula racing and for motorcycle racing. So it's got a lot of asphalt, but but it's got some weird curbs. You can't extend track limits everywhere, not only because you'll get instant points, but because curbs like that in turn 1, they're slightly raised. There's a rut in the outside, so if you've got one wheel on the flat surface and one wheel in the rut of the curb, you can instantly spin yourself around, just like Nathan Olson did.
Yeah, and also to remember that as iRacing is going through all the upgrades of the past couple seasons, being a new track, I believe this track benefits from the new 3D curbing as well compared to some of our older tracks, so the track can behave a little different. Look at how busy pit road got all of a sudden here with about 18 minutes to go, Joey.
All of these sheeple just listening to what the mainstream pit strategy has to say, coming down at the same time. But you have to imagine this isn't going to change much in terms of the order. Lots of very separated cars and drivers coming down here. And that will be, I believe that's Michael Diaz leading the race off the pit lane, coming out behind the LMP2 of Edward Vardanessian. These are going to be the two to watch, though. The teammates from Moradness, Alec Bergstrom and Nathan Olson, separated by about a second and a half. But Olson has been very, very quick, and he'll be looking to hunt down his teammate to try and steal third away as Anthony Dring ends up in a very unfortunate situation with the Moradness GTP coming out of the pits. Dring corrects and spins it around.
Yeah, I think Dring got surprised by the cars coming off the pit road there and then sort of overreacted to what he saw and got the car spun around there. But now I think he's got it moving again here. But yeah, that was a very sudden moment there for him. See him and his teammate now lined up in those Vice cars.
And that wasn't Olson, by the way. Forgive me. Those we're going to talk about this season because those are the Moradness M Squad cars. They are all painted exactly the same, and that was actually Mitchell Johnson and Zachary Deus, the two other Moradness teammates. While the other two Moradness teammates, separated by exactly the same gap, Alec Bergstrom and Nathan Olson, are still out on track. I'm telling the Moradness people right now, Derek. I guarantee you they're watching. Please differentiate the liveries starting next week, please.
Yes.
Bring back the purple if you have to. Do something. Help me out here. Let's ride on board with Dring as he makes very good frames with Zachary Deus in turn 1. Oh, it's Stephen Hassett, actually. So speaking of identically painted liveries, Stephen Hassett and Anthony Dring are also in exactly the same painted car.
Yeah, that's difficult to keep them separated sometimes. But once again, I think he just got a little spooked by the car coming off the pit road and just sort of took it very wide. But got it gathered up in the paint out there. You know, all's good. The end's good. No damage, no wall hits, nothing like that. Riding on board here, by the way. And look at that pass. This is Boris Ovando you're riding on board with, Joey.
And not really setting himself up for success into turn 1 because he had an LMP2 to his outside who actually ends up winning out for just a moment. That's Rob Campbell, who's just recently come out of the pits. And for an LMP2 car, he has proven exceptionally frustrating for Boris Ovando through the high downforce corners. He's a little bit faster than him.
So in the off season, was Rob Campbell like knighted in the royal family? What happened to him? Do you know?
Oh, Boris gets a little bit angry with him for that matter. He doesn't care about his royal hierarchy. This is not a battle you'd expect, Derek. It's LMP2 versus GTP. This is not a battle for position, but Boris is probably fuming right now.
Yeah, this is confusing to me. A lot of times you don't see that because the GTP should be way faster than the LMP2, but they're having a great battle going back and forth there. Eventually, I think Rob Campbell's going to have to give this up. Either Ovondo's going to get around him or find a way around him, if you know what I mean.
It'll likely happen on the front straight if the straight line speed of that GTP can be used. But Campbell does still have to pit. Race leader Jack Hedgecock still has to pit as well. Strategy about midway through in the LMP2 class, but not much has changed because this has been a far more stratified race than I think we saw in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge, Derek.
There's Ovando down pit.
Yeah, Ovando's down pit lane, I believe, for...
Is that
his second time down?
It is. He came down very early after, I think, some contact in the first lap or so, if I recall right, as memory serves. But yeah, this would be his scheduled stop.
Yeah, surprising. And Alec Bergstrom and Nathan Olson, for that matter, this is actually them, by the way. Don't get confused. This is not Mitchell Johnson and Zachary Deus. This is Bergstrom and Olson. They're just painted exactly the same, so, you know, how can we know any different? But these are the two drivers fighting for likely third behind Campbell, behind Pelshaw. and potentially behind Zegers if they're going to be fighting with them as well. But remember these pit stop times as Pelshaw comes around. Pelshaw had a stop of 16 seconds. The clock ticks up for Olsen. The clock ticks up for Bergstrom as Ray and Roy don't get that tongue-tied or side by side. It's a 13-second stop for Nathan Olsen. That's the shortest stop we've seen from anybody up front, and that might just put him in overall second as Pat Pelshaw's coming down the front straight. It's going to be a battle into turn one between the two of them, and Olsen clears him. Pelshaw around the outside of Bergstrom takes third.
Yeah, typically the rule of thumb is about 1 second of pit road time is equivalent to about 1.5 to 2 seconds of on-track time. So a 3-second difference in that pit stop time can be pretty massive in gaining spots here. So good job on that 13-second pit stop. And now we'll see where that lines everybody out here. As currently Zegers up in the lead of GTPs and Sean Campbell in second for the first time tonight.
Big fuel save potentially from Olsen. If you're saving more fuel than Sean Campbell, if you're taking that stop so much later, that is a pretty big accomplishment. But we'll see if he can actually make it to the end of the race. There's always those questions of, did you underfuel the car? Will you actually be able to make it to the end? And will he be able to make it to the end with a driver like Pat Pelshaw behind him? The battle is not over. Pelshaw only a second behind. He's going to be pushing, and he's going to be looking to bring that down and continue this fight. Daniel Zegers, though, is finally down pit lane. The last straggler in GTP. Johnny Luna will follow him as well. We're not going to wait for the blend between him and Campbell. That's not going to be a question. But where will Zegers end up? Will he be on the podium? Where does he come out in relation to Olsen, Pelshaw, and Bergstrom?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that pit stop time. Here's Johnny Luna now coming down, and he will enter pit lane here and start that box-to-box pit lane time. And there is Daniel Zegers still on pit road. We're at 6, 7, 7, 8. Let's see how long. Remember, 16 was what our leaders did earlier, I believe.
And it's not even going to be close for Zegers. Falling out of the top 4, potentially falling out of the top 5, finally gets out after a 16-second stop. Michael Diaz is the driver who he's really in the fight with, and he's going to blow by him as well. This alternate strategy for Daniel Zegers has not gone his way at all. He loses the spot to Mitchell Johnson as well. Daniel Zegers from the fight for the top 5 is in P7.
Yeah, a long time there on pit road, 16.3 compared to other stops we've seen. So I'm sure maybe he wanted to put a little bit more fuel in the car or what happened there, but a long stop just in the pit stall, not even talking about the entry to exit, just purely talking about, you know, the service time of that car.
It stops an LMP2 as well, finishing off. Josh Goen is going to be able to go one more lap around, as is his teammate Andrew Wood. But Jack Hedgecox is in, Rob Campbell is in, Chip Michaels is in, and a whole host of others. 13-second stop for Hedgecox, though fairly straightforward. He's been totally dominant, just like we said about Adam Brockway in the GT4s at Barber. We haven't said Jack Hedgecox's name once, and that's been a perfectly good thing in a race like this. Just totally anonymous, in the lead, doing Jack Hedgecox things and continuing on his way. Back to Jeff Evans here, who after the pit cycle has concluded in the GTPs is officially in the top 10, and he's going to try and hold off Nathan Ray for P9.
Yeah, doing a great job so far. About a 3/4 of a second gap has been closed right there. So we come through that left-hand corner. Ray did a great job outbraking Evans. Now, in this style of racing, though, Joey, you really have two problems. The first problem is catching someone. The second problem is passing them. So Ray caught him, but what can Ray do afterwards?
Into the draft, into the front straight, 0.3 of a second. The separation between the two Acuras. How powerful is the draft? The answer is fairly powerful. Ray closing and closing and closing, but only closing by about 1/10. He needs to be that much closer coming out of the final corner to make that move into turn 1. And he's going to be frustrated again, seeing a ton of pink in front of him, just that bright magenta Miracle Flow Acura. It's a very familiar livery. It's going to be a little bit too familiar for Nathan Ray's. He's been staring at it for a couple of laps now.
Yeah, that'll get you a little frustrated after a while. If you're so much staring at it, you'll get a little more desperate to make a move, and you'll try to dig a little deeper or push a little harder, if you will. You know, Joey, when researching this track today, I come across a quote by a real-life driver, Earl Bamber. Two quotes he had. First, he called this track a roller coaster because of all the hills and all the inclines, and I think that's pretty accurate. But then he said this track has a lot of personality in the corners. And I was curious what you thought of that. Do you think a track has personalities, or what personalities do you think these corners have?
I think it has a lot of personality because it is, I mean, those two quotes go together. It is a roller coaster. You've got a flat first sector, but it's not flat to start it. You've got that giant downhill. You got a couple of corners on flat ground, then you're climbing back up a hill, falling back down, climbing back up again. It's just corners like this where it's constant elevation change, and it's constantly setting off the center of mass for these cars. You're almost getting yourself beached, just like the LMP2 did there. It's a roller coaster all the way around.
Yeah, I like that quote a lot when I found it. So, I mean, that really describes this track perfectly, a roller coaster. If I had to describe it to someone, I mean, look at this. And these are the type of hills that scare me the most in racing, because really, when you get to the top of it, it's very possible at the crest of that hill, you have no idea what's waiting for you on the other side.
By the way, update for Bradley Holly fans. He was having a pretty solid day. He was in the top 10 for the longest time, and I don't know what happened to him. He came down pit lane, he sat there for 6 minutes, and now he's back out there 4 laps down and in 15th. So we'll try and get some answers about that for you, and also trouble for Boris Ovando. Unfortunately, I don't think he actually crashed. I think the Boris Ovando internet, unfortunately, may have been the reason for that. Boris Ovando out of the race as well after a disappointing day from him.
Yeah, a very disappointing day indeed. You know, I get thinking about Bradley Holly a second. You and Justin Prince have that Kevin San Diego song. Have you ever taken Bradley Holly and put it into Buddy Holly by Weezer?
Yes. I think I did that. I think I did that on the first broadcast I ever saw Bradley Holly on about 4 years ago.
Fair enough.
I think that was also the day of the Happy Holly Day as well. This one is not a Happy Holly Day. This one is a very negative Holly Day.
Yeah, so far it's a very negative Holly Day indeed.
So this is Bradley Holly in his purple machine. His teammate Evans getting by him. I wonder if this is some kind of technical thing that he had to come down pit lane to fix, Derek, because he is just he's just crawling around here and then sat in pit lane for 6 minutes.
Look at that wheel turn right there. That tells you all you need to know. Well, maybe not, actually.
Well, is that damage? Let's see him when he's pointed straight again. Yeah, that's a damaged car. He must have crashed before that.
Yeah, and that's when we came back to that comment I made earlier about the difference in the prototypes and the GT cars. Most of the GT cars are a little bit of a tank. You can get some damage on them and be okay, quote unquote. But if you even just like ding a prototype, it feels like you have to fix it. And that's what Bradley Holly was experiencing there. That was a lot of left-hand torque in that wheel for a straightaway.
Nathan Ray's gotten by Jeff Evans for P9. His frustration's finally over in terms of that, but his frustration's not over with the LMP2 traffic shining the headlights at the number 45 Moradness car, and eventually getting by Jeff Fleischman, but only after a little bit of frustration. Now he can look forward, but here's what happened to Bradley Holly coming down into turn 5. Oh my goodness. That was either Dring or Hassett potentially, or Tyler Pierre Richards spun in front of him.
Yeah, I don't know if he thought the car was just going to move, man. He tried to go to the inside of the corner and just misjudged it.
It was Tyler Pierre Richards. Very purple car, and yeah, that's unfortunate. A solid day from Bradley Holly ends in tears very early. Here's what happened to Tyler from the outside. Locks up the rear brakes, and welcome Brad to the scene.
Yeah, Brad, I think, tried to cut to the inside corner and get away from him, but also realized that wasn't going to happen. That was that dreaded turn 5, by the way. As you see now the outside shot of that, so you can see that corner continuing to really be the problem child of this race tonight. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Brad. I think God it was going to be open, but it's not so much.
Teammates have found each other. John Krauser and Marco Jansen. Can they give us a little bit of spectacularness, a little bit of excitement for P13? We can only hope, because things have gotten a little bit separated out on track. This is actually the closest battle, I believe, on the track right now, and it's between the paper white number 502 and the slightly less white, a little bit of navy blue on the number 97. Going to be too much separation to make anything happen in turn 1, though.
Yeah, way too much separation to make anything happen in turn 1 here. So we'll see them. They cut down through the right-hander into your next right-hander. One of the very few corners I feel like here, you go the same direction 2 times without the back and forth style of corners. And right now, Krauser doing a great job holding P13 here. What about now almost 3/4 of a second lead over his teammate?
Look who's coming onto the scene. A little bit more GTP traffic. That's Pat Pelshaw from P3. No, that's actually Nathan Olson from P2. Pat Pelshaw behind him. The Precision Racing Esports Acura behind the Moradness Acura. And this is actually helping Pat Pelshaw a little bit. Nathan Olson getting a little bit held up behind Jansen. Now going to be getting a little bit held up behind Krauser. That's allowed Pelshaw to close that gap down within a second, and he may be within draft range if he can clear Krauser here. Krauser's wide, and Pelshaw does get around, but he's still 1.1 seconds back. Needs to get a little bit closer to have any shot at second.
Yeah, if you're Pat Pelshaw, you were probably hoping for a better passing spot than those twisting corners right there, because although you did get away fairly cleanly in that ordeal, you still had to slow up to get around those cars. That's unfortunate for them. Now back to this battle with Krauser and Jansen, 13th and 14th.
Anthony Dring not actually on the scene in this battle. It's just that it's been such a race of attrition in LMP2 that unfortunately we've gone almost down to P14. But Anthony Dring falling down out of the order after potentially being involved in this battle. On to the brakes into turn 3, though. Jansen very, very late, very, very aggressive, but just not a heavy enough braking zone to make anything happen. Up over the hill into turn 4. And it's more of the same for these guys as Jansen actually pulls off to the side. He's got some intra LMP2 traffic to let by. That's Caleb Lehman coming around to lap these guys.
There's Caleb in that highlighter yellow machine. Coming here, that little blue accent, trying to get around here and just keep things clean. And Caleb, of course, now about 15 seconds off of P1. So he's trying to very comfortably ride for P2 for the last 2.5 minutes and secure the first podium of the season.
The sun going down here in Algarve. It's a Portuguese evening. You're going to start seeing people strolling around. You start seeing people go out to the churrascarias and the like, getting their grilled steak. But the stakes not very high for this battle. Daniel Zegers and Zachary Deus, Moradness versus PRE. That's going to be the great rivalry of the season. You're definitely going to see these guys fighting for the team's championship against each other. So every point is going to matter. Even if this is only a battle for P7, Zachary Deus desperately wants to get by and give him and his team every point they can get.
Yeah, every point will matter for both the drivers and the teams as the season goes on. You do get, of course, get one drop week here in the PRL, but you don't want to use it. You want to have every week be great. So they'll try to battle each other pretty hard here. Man, look at the skies. It's getting darker and a little cloudier. No rain, obviously, but a little darker as this race goes on. Means the track should be cooling off and providing more grip.
Possibility for rain, I believe, is in the air this season. Weather is automatically generated by iRacing, which means that if the weather does generate in such a way to allow rain, we will have a wet race at some point this season. We have to hope for the good luck and the good fortune for that to actually happen. I think Sean Campbell would be pretty excited for that, though, because he turned who knows how many laps in the wet preparing for the iRacing Sebring 12-hour a couple of weeks ago. If anybody's ready for the wet, it's definitely him, and we might think of a wet race as something that would stow chaos and potentially give us a new winner. I think it might give us somebody new in second. I think Sean would instantly have an advantage there, though.
Yeah, he may. Of course, you know, Sean did, as you said, the Sebring race and prepared a lot for it. That rain will really throw some monkey wrenches in the plans. And with this many cars on track, who knows how fast the track can dry out, what can happen. Lots of questions here. White flag in the air, by the way. One more lap to go for Sean Campbell.
White flag for Sean, white flag for Hedgecox as well. It's just been dominance for both of those guys today, and the entire field is going to be thinking for the next week, what can we do? How do we prevent these immovable or these unstoppable forces from winning these championships? Sean Campbell has only been beaten to a championship in the PRL when he was disqualified from races for switching cars too much. Jack Hedgecox has only lost a championship in the PRL when he competed in a half season about 5 years ago. Both of these guys have been so good, and this has just been absolutely triumphant to start this season. But there's still battles until the end of the day. Zachary Deus and Daniel Zegers are continuing to fight. This is a great exit out of turn 1 for Zachary Deus. A little bit too far back to make it happen. Into Lagos, into turn 3. But Deus is all over the back of him, looking for anywhere else to get by. Turn 5 might be his best chance.
And this is the beautiful thing about the PRL is even though maybe the lead has been decided, there's still multiple battles happening through a field at any given point. Watch this turn 5 here. Both get through cleanly. Do a great job there. I think that was his last possible outbreaking opportunity that we're going to have here on this track.
I think that may be resolved, but through the final corner, Sean Campbell returns to the PRL. He's actually racing for free this season after winning the PRL All-Star Invitational. And yet again, Sean Campbell is an All-Star in the PRL, victorious for the 25th time in Precision Racing League competition. And Jack Hedgecock's victorious once again as well. I believe that's his 10th win, if I'm not mistaken, in LMP2. Just absolute domination from two of the finest drivers in the PRL, Campbell and Hedgecock's. Absolute shows of dominance today.
Yeah, great job by all the drivers here on a very tricky track, but really it's domination, as you said. It's probably the key word that comes to my mind for both Campbell and Hedgecock. Here's a battle on track, though. This is Craig Bray and Josh Goen. This is for P6.
Gonna come down to the final corner. Can Goen get close enough to use the draft coming to the line? I think he might be a little bit too far back, and Craig Bray hangs on to P6 in his first race in the PRL. The Moradness driver takes 6th place. But wow, it was the 10th win in a prototype for Sean Campbell, his 25th win overall in the PRL. For Jack Hedgecock's his 9th win in a prototype. And that is just scary for the rest of the field. I mentioned in this class that there are a lot of drivers who could potentially be in the championship conversation. But after a trouncing like this, Pat Pelshaw and Precision Racing Esports are going to have to go back to the drawing board and try and build up. Dayton Lowe coming in next week is going to be looking for a way to fight for the championship as well, because it has gotten very, very difficult. Jack Hedgecock as well fought for the championship with Daniel Zeggers last season, was arguably a little bit slower over the course of the season, but still was able to pull out the championship with consistency. It's gonna be tough to beat these guys this season, but we do have the finishing results for today. Sean Campbell victorious once again, ahead of Nathan Olson, who had quite the drive forward, started a little bit deeper in the field than he would have liked, and came out with a 2nd place finish. You'll definitely see him fighting for podiums and maybe even fighting for wins this season. He finishes ahead of defending champion Pat Pelshaw, who rounds off the podium. Alec Bergstrom and Michael Diaz round out the top 5. Then Mitchell Johnson for the Moradness M squad finishes ahead of Daniel Zeggers. Deus, Ray, and the top 10 man himself, Jeff Evans, round out the top 10. Ignore these teams, by the way. They'll be accurate next week. Johnny Luna and Nicholas Schwartz were the last 2 drivers on the lead lap, as Darian Roy went 1 lap down. Bradley Holly crashed and finished 4 laps down. Boris Ovando, I believe, had some internet trouble again, and unfortunately ended up 9 laps down himself. And then we get into the used car lot of cars with heavy damage. Dave Menino, Nico Sonidakis, Carter James, and Zach Hebert ran into trouble. Unfortunately, Dayton Lowe not getting off the line, not getting the practice he wanted. Stephen Verity and Casey O'Brien, the same tales for them. Hopefully we see them next week. Jack Hedgecock's for Go-In Racing returns to glory and returns to absolute domination ahead of Caleb Lehman, who's now Caleb Lemon this season. Alex Caruso on the podium in his PRL return, and Rob Campbell, 4th place for him ahead of Chip Michaels. Craig Bray held off Josh Goen in that photo finish to the line, and John Leedy, one of his best results in this series, P8 ahead of Andrew Wood. Ed Vardanessian, top 10 for him as well. Great run for him to round out the top 10. Stephen Hassett, Marco Jansen, and John Krauser, and Jeff Fleischman and TJ Griffin all went 1 lap down each. Dino Vella ran into trouble 3 laps down. Anthony Dring, Eddie Layton, and Joshua Chinsky 5 laps down each. And then we get into the used car lot of heavier damaged cars. Andrew Venaro, Tyler Pierre Richards, Luke Wallace, Jeremy Carter, Daniel Trinka, and Corey Sircone round out 25 cars in the LMP2 class this season. But we've got a whole host of drivers to talk to tonight, and it's going to start with the 2 winners. We'll kick it off with the driver who refused to give us a mid-race interview. Sean Campbell, it's like you're a new driver. You weren't even checking Discord during the race.
I would have done. I was kind of hoping.
You were a little bit busy.
I was a little worried during practice and qualifying or in the race as well. I hadn't done LMP2s or had to pass LMP2s at this track yet, but it worked out, I suppose. But yeah, if I would have seen that, I would have jumped in. That's my bad.
So there's a lot of hope this season, Sean, that some drivers might be able to beat you. You've got Nathan Olson, who's very strong. You've got defending champion Pat Pelshaw. We'll have Dayton Lowe coming in next week. Do you feel extra pressure compared to previous PRL seasons, or does this give you some confidence that this will be a typical Sean Campbell season?
I have a feeling it's going to be a lot closer. I have a feeling, not just for like the top 3, but like in general. I think the racing will be a lot closer on the tracks that are like closer quarters. Like Portimao is super wide, so the traffic's really easy to get around, right? But Long Beach, Long Beach is gonna be insane if we go there. I'm pretty sure it's on the schedule for him, so I don't know if it's on the PRL schedule.
It is,
but yeah, okay, that'll be great. Imola next week is like guaranteed rain, I'm pretty sure, for all the IMSA sessions, so that'll be interesting to see on a narrow track with the completely rubbered line being soaked. Like Aqua Minerale is just a pool. It's all the water's down there.
It finally lives up to its name officially. I'm very excited for that. If that actually happens.
It's literally is a pool down there. But yeah, it will be extreme. It'll be very extreme. It'll be just about getting to the end of the race in those conditions, because in the LMDH it's so hard to just get around the lap.
Well, Mr. Sean, congrats on your 25th win in the PRL, and we'll see you hopefully in the wet next week.
Hopefully. Peace.
Sean Campbell coming home victorious yet again, but a driver who was similarly dominant just in his own class was Mr. Jack Hedgecox, and he is with Derek Watson.
Well, Jack, week 1 and 1 win. Good job here at Portimao. How was the racing out there tonight?
It was pretty chaotic for the first couple laps there, and then it just mellowed out. There was a I think there was bowling going on with the GTP field at the beginning there, because, man, those first 3 laps, I think I saw yellow flags at least 5 or 6 times and so many wrecks. But after that, luckily I got through it all. Made a mistake at the beginning and I lost the lead, and then got it back from the same sort of deal with Alex happening to him. So after that, just controlled it. So Jax Verstappen's back.
There you go. Well, Joey told us at the end of the race, this is your 9th win inside a prototype vehicle here in PRL. So are you excited for Imola next week?
I am. I like that track a lot. I have a feeling this car's not going to like them curbs that much, though. That's for sure. But definitely think I'll do pretty well there, and looking forward to the season with everybody again.
And are you looking forward to the inevitable rain that will happen sometime during the season?
I don't know. I did some racing around this track in the rain this week in the fixed, and definitely did not feel nice. So I think it depends on the track for sure. I'm excited for rain, but I'm hoping I'm towards the front or on pole, because I do not want to deal with the spray from that many cars. That's for sure.
Yeah, the spray will be the worst part probably. Well, listen, great job tonight, and we'll see you in 1 week's time at Imola.
Appreciate it. Have a good night, y'all.
Jack Hedgecox victorious in LMP2. Looks like we'll get to talk to one more driver, and it's defending champion Pat Pelshaw, who came home 3rd today. Pat, you were so dominant last season, dominantly won that championship, but unfortunately this season you've got Sean Campbell trying to do the same thing to you. How do you fight back against that?
That is perfect. I mean, I'm gonna give it my best, but it's totally fair. He is so quick. Gonna make me work very hard this season to try and catch him.
So how are things over at Precision Racing Esports? Because you've got Michael back, you've got Boris back, you've got Daniel moving up from LMP2. What's it like with working with those guys who you were so successful with last season again?
I think we've got a very solid group again. Working the GTP, and it's just great having also guys to fight with this season, like with the Morendez guys and Sean and all these guys. It's gonna be an amazing season. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to that team's championship battle between PRE and Moradness. It's gonna be very exciting. But until then, Pat, we'll let you get your Imola practice laps in. We'll let you be Practice Pelshaw, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Practice Pelshaw coming home in 3rd, and that about rounds things up, Derek. Absolute chaos and calamity in LMP3 and GT4, and a slightly calmer day in GTP and LMP2, with the 2 best drivers in their classes coming home with another win. But you heard what Sean said, a very big possibility of rain coming up in this series next week, and I cannot wait to see that, Derek. First official rain race in the PRL. Hopefully the weather goes that way.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'll have my poncho ready and an umbrella, and I'll be here with you ready to see if that does happen.
The 3 W's, Wet, Wild, and Watson. Prepare yourselves for next week. Same time, same place, here on RaceSpotTV. The Monday night prototype doubleheaders. What a way to kick off the season. Congrats to everybody going at it, because I can't wait for that to continue on next week. There's PRL action all week long, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays as well. That's going to be about it for us tonight. My name is Joey Tebben. Derek Watson has been Derek Watson. Our producer has been Dustin Ollis. Until we see you next time, so long.